Hey friends, it's Tracy. Welcome to today's video. I have a collection video that I'm going to share my favorite spring and Easter DIYs. Now guys, you know me, I jam-pack quite a few steps into my projects, so I will have the timestamps listed in the description box below if you would like to fast forward or jump to a specific part in the video or a different project. All right guys, let's go ahead and get started. Let me share my spring and Easter DIYs. All right, these are some of the supplies I'm using. I have this board that is it's an old weather board. It's about not quite 14 inches and about almost six inches by 13 3/4, almost 14 inches. Anyway, these are all weather boards that came from an old picket fence that someone gave me, and I just had my husband just randomly cut them down. And so this is an old spring that I have. My father-in-law had an old mattress that he took apart, and he gave me all of these springs. And so I'm going to be using one of those as well as some muslin fabric to make my hanger because it's going to look very vintage and very cute. Okay, what I did is I took my electric drill and I figured out where I want my spring to attach to my board, and I put in 4 small holes, 2 here and 2 here, and I'm going to just use some wire to attach my spring to my board. And then I put 2 holes there because that's where my muslin fabric is going to go. Then also I'm going to be using some Waverly just chalk paint in my brush and just dry brushing that on. I'm not going to give a really thick coverage because I want it to look a bit whimsy and distressed and vintage. Be doing some shading using this Deco Art Americana paint in milk chocolate, and I have a cup of clean water and my 1/2 inch flat paintbrush. This is one of my favorite ways to shade. I dip half of my brush in paint, the other half in clean water. Then I blend on a paper towel. These are just the blue shop towels that you can get in the automotive section at any place that sells that has like an automotive little section. And so then I'm just going to go around and just add a bit of the brown distressing to my little board here. Now I'm going to use some black acrylic paint to hand letter or hand paint my letters. Now I am using this number 6 flat paintbrush out of my favorite pack. It is in my favorite links if you would like to see the paintbrushes that I do like to use. And depending on what I'm writing will depend on what size brush I'm going to use. And so I am just, I always wet my brush first and then dip it into paint, and then I just hand letter. Now I'm going to use some buttermilk paint. This is Deco Art Americana. It is just an acrylic paint and just a thin liner brush, and I'm going to put a swoosh in each of the happy dots because I feel that that really kind of it brings out my letters and my word and makes it pop. And then I also decided to, once I put my little swooshes in there, I'm like, I'm going to highlight around the letters as well. Also decided to take this real fuchsia, it's a Deco Art Americana color as well, and go around the letters to make them pop. Now I'm going to take my number 2 liner brush and some black acrylic paint, go around the edges to add some doodling. And because this is an old weathered board as well as this chalk paint, I choose to use the black paint versus my marker because I know that it's going to not be very bright. And so the paint will make it brighter. Do some splattering, and I like to use a stiff brush and a stick and just go over my bristles toward my body one time. I never go back over it because then the paint would go on me. When I go over the bristles toward my body, this projects the paint onto whatever I want it to go on. And so I'm just doing black first. I always cover my area because it is splatter paint and it will splatter. And so I will do this and then I'll go back over and do the buttermilk. To attach my spring to my board, what I have are 2 pieces of just thin wire. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread them through the back of the board, you know, where I had put those holes. And then I'm going to attach it to my spring with the, you know, ends at the top. Then I'm going to curl those ends down. And that is going to be part of my sign. And I like to do that just by curling the ends and making it look like it's part of the project. It looks a little whimsy and rustic, and I just like that little look. So I have my wire twisted on my spring, and so I'm just using my little curling tool that a sweet friend and follower sent to me, and I'm just going to curl these wires down. If you're interested in these curling wires, I do have a link in the description box in my favorite things, if that is something that you are interested in. To fill my spring, I have some of these beautiful spring flowers. This bouquet came from Michael's, as well as some tulips came from Michael's. This greenery bush came from Walmart. And just to kind of tie it all together, I'm using this moss. I'm thinking that this moss came from Hobby Lobby. I'm thinking that this came from Hobby Lobby. It was either Hobby Lobby or Joann's, but I'm going to tie all of this together into this spring and to make it look really cute. Now that I have my blooms the way that I want them, I'm just going to take just a rubber band and just gather those together with a rubber band, just getting it as tight as I can. And then I'm going to take some floral tape and also just kind of tie them all together just so that they stay nice and bundled together. Not to use the muslin fabric because I couldn't get it through the smaller hole. I was going to have to drill a bigger one and I didn't want to do that. So I'm using this garden wire from the 99-cent store. It's a little bit bigger than the one I get from the Dollar Tree, and but it is pliable that I can twist it around. So I'm going to use this as a hanger for my sign. Actually cut my wire way too long. I didn't realize it till I had already threaded it through, and then I pulled. I was like, oh no, that hanger is way too long. I don't need it that long. So I'm just going to cut off some of that, and then I'm using my little curling tool just to curl the ends of it over on itself so that I have the little curly cues, and then that gives me the hanger that I want. So I have all of these trims and ribbons. I also have some muslin fabric that I tore some strips off of. And then I'm just going to put all of these together just to make a messy bow for my bloom decor piece. So this string is from Hobby Lobby in the spring section, and so I just, twisted it around, and I'm going to add that into my bow. And then for the bottom of my bow, I'm just using this white polka dot ribbon from Dollar Tree, just making a couple of loops, making some longer tails, and then I will just clip that or staple it in the middle with my tiny attacher, and then I'm just going to cut that off straight because I'm going to roll the ends of this ribbon. And anyway, so I'm just going to gather all of this together, put all this in the middle, tie it with a or secure it with a pipe cleaner because I get the strongest hold with that, and then I'm going to attach it to my spring.
Okay, this bucket is from the Dollar Tree. It's the larger one. So what I did is, this was one that I started, one of those smashed cans that I did from the very beginning, when the smashed cans first came out on the scene and everyone was doing them. So I had to kind of work at getting the bottom of this bucket off, and so I used several different tools to get it off, just I guess because it's slanted I had a hard time. So I ended up using my can opener that had the little point on the end, and I was able to get off the bottom of the can. So then to smash it down, I used my hammer and just really worked it so that I could get it smashed on the end. If you want to see the original video, I will leave a link to that in the description box below. So then now what I did is I just took a couple of blocks of styrofoam. I like to get those from the Dollar Tree. And then this moss is from Hobby Lobby. This black wire is from the 99-cent store. It is a little bit thicker and it is a little bit more pliable. Like I can twirl it around my fingers. Very, very nice. And that is what I'm going to use as my hanger. And so I used my Crocodile, which is a great tool to punch holes in metal. And so that's what I'm showing you there is I had just punched a couple of holes in there. Now, I have made several of these cans since making this first one. And so I just want to encourage you, make sure and put your holes on the side so that your wire will hang in your your wire will hang your bucket nicely. These are the florals. I'm picking some of these out to put into this bucket. And next I will tell you where I got all of these florals from.
Tulips from Michael's, as well as some of these flowers. I love bushes or bouquets that have like the textures of the different flowers in it. And then this bush is from Walmart. It is called, let's see what this is called. It's called a mixed greenery bush. It was $3.47 when I purchased it, but it has so many different textures on it. So I'm going to pull out a few of these and stick them into my bucket, and yeah, I'm going to enjoy it for many years to come. And I also have some of this baby's breath that is also from Walmart. I didn't glue my styrofoam in my can, and when I was sticking in my flowers, it was kind of moving around. Usually I thought that this would kind of hold it together, but next time when I make another one of these cans, I'm going to need to glue the styrofoam down in there, which that's not a big deal because I'm just making this for myself. And so then I like the whimsy look, so I'm just putting in some more of this moss and just kind of filling it in around just to kind of tuck it in and making it look very whimsy and you know, just totally my style. And so anyway, that is going to hang on my wall or my door, just so stinking cute. I hope you love it as well. For the tag that I made for the little flowers and garden bucket, I'm using one of these white wood tags. Now I got them in a bundle from Hobby Lobby, and So I just love to use them. They're already painted white. Some of them are the natural color as well. They come with a little jute string. I think they were near the like wedding section, I'm thinking. I've had these for a while. Anyway, so I'm going to use my charcoal gray ink, and I got it out of this pack also from Hobby Lobby, guys. Y'all, I love Hobby Lobby. I'm just going to ink around the edges just to give it some distressing and some color. Sometimes I like to use ink. I also like to use paint, but I just felt like just pulling this out and just kind of go over the face of it. And I love this little pack, and I'm not sponsored by Hobby Lobby. I wish I was, because I love their stuff. Anyway, so then now I'm going to write flowers, 5 cents on here, and just for it to have a cute little tag. I'm just using a chisel Sharpie marker. Now, this is how my tag looks, and I love to do happy dots on my end of my letters, and then I also like to put a dot of white paint in each of the bubbles of the letters just to bring out the letters and just make them pop. Now I'm going to do some paint splatters on my tag, and I just do that by just using a stiff brush and just a stick, running it over my bristles toward my body, so that way the paint projects onto the tag, never away from my body, because then the paint would go on me. So I just want to specify that I just run the stick over the bristles one time. You can also use an old stiff toothbrush. Any stiff brush should work. And to attach my sign, I'm just using that one hole that came from the handle, and I'm just threading my jute on there, being careful if there are any sharp pieces, which there are not. I didn't feel any. Anyway, so I'm just attaching my sign so that it hangs right there on the side. Use my antiquing wax and a baby wipe to put some color and stain on this little picket fence. Okay, this is how my sign looks after I have it all stained with the antique wax. So then now I have my little burlap bag, and I'm just going to cut a piece of styrofoam because this block is a little too big to put in there. So I'm going to just stick that in there, and I'm going to put some Excelsior, some of that ivory Excelsior that I like to use in my country crafting, and I'm going to put that in there just to give it a bit of whimsy. make a small tag for my pouch here, my little bag. And so I'm just using my fine Sharpie marker, and I am just going to hand letter Blossom. I think it's appropriate with the little cherry blossoms. So just using my favorite distress ink, my vintage photo, and just a little finger dauber, I am just going to go around the edges of my tag. Just doing what I like to do, just give it a little distressing. I'm also going to give it an aged look by just kind of bending it back and forth, kind of crumpling it up like that. I'm going to be using some ribbons and trims as well as this fabric to make a cute bow for my little decor. I also cut a few pieces of this burlap ribbon with the white polka dots as well as some muslin fabric to put put a lot of texture and colors into my bow. So I just attached my bow right here to the top, just threaded that pipe cleaner through there and then just glued it down. And then I'm going to attach my tag on the side here just with a small safety pin. Now I used my friend Linda, who is Faith Chick 777 here on YouTube, and she has a video that I will link to of how to rust small metals like this. I used her technique and it worked great. For the hanger, I just cut off the little jute hanger that was included with this little slatted board, and so then I'm just going to tie some muslin on just to make a hanger for the board.
For my carrot, I'm using pumpkin chalk paint for the orange part and then leaf green for the top. I gave it 2 coats of that. Then for the faux plaid pattern, that's just what I call it, I'm using my fan brush, and my favorite way to do the faux plaid pattern is just take a few of those bristles and some, I'm just using plaster chalk paint here, and I give it vertical lines down, then I go back and do the stripes across the horizontal lines like that. For the top, I did add a little bit of shadowing with the black paint, and then also I will add it to the orange part as well. And then I am going to add some extras by adding some paint splatters. I'm going to be adding some squiggles, some doodles. I'll use my black Sharpie marker. I'll do all of that stuff. And then to tie it off, I just use some raffia and just make a simple little carrot here. I just tied a little raffia bow, and then I use one of those craft color tags also in my mystery box, and just hand lettered carrots for sale. I did my happy dots. I put some little white highlights in each of the happy dots, and then just tied it off with the raffia bow, and I just love the way that this turned out. Friends, if this is your first time here watching one of my videos, my name is Tracy, and I love to share crafty ideas with a bit of rustic country charm. I would love it if you would check out my channel, because I have a library full of all kind of country crafts. I am a bit of an old school crafter. I love my happy dots, my paint splatters, my torn edges, muslin and homespun fabric are my favorites, and I love my black Sharpie marker. All right, guys, I do love to share lots of seasonal crafts, so that is what you will find on my channel. I love to share the God-given talents that I have, and I am so glad that you're here. All right, let's go ahead and get into the rest of the video. Now, the sign is using one of these boards from the Dollar Tree. This happens to be an Easter sign, but the Dollar Tree does have these, you know, for different seasons. So I just removed the feet and also whatever else was on the sign. And then I'm going to paint on the back side. And what I did is I cut off about 8 inches of this board, because that 8 inches is going to be the bunny face, and then the other part is going to be the sign. I just used some hole filler, some spackle that I got from the Dollar Tree to fill those holes that were at the top of the sign where the jute string was. And then I gave each board 2 coats of plaster color chalk paint. Plaster it's not a true white, and it's not an ivory either, and I like that color anyway. So once those are completely dry, I'm using this yellow. It's just acrylic paint, and it's a primary yellow, and I'm just taking my stencil brush and just going around the edges, I'm not being very precise, very even. I'm just kind of almost stippling it on and just kind of going around just to give it a yellow color. For my bunny face, I tend to kind of stick with the same designs for my projects. And like I've said before, I like the more rectangle cheeks. And I use a stippling brush, a stencil brush, to kind of achieve the look that I like up and down. I know there are a lot of people that like round cheeks, so that's the beauty in painting. We can make it anything we want. And I use a coral color paint for my cheeks. Now for my eyes, I kind of been doing eyes for many years, and I like the more almond shape, where like at the top they kind of meet up at the top. And so what I usually do is I draw them out with a black marker, and then I go back over it with my black paint. That seems to work the best for me. I have a very thin, very loved thin liner paintbrush that I use to make my eyelashes and as well as my eyebrows. And so then now I'm just taking a pencil and just drawing out a nose, and then I just take some pink paint and I just with the brush just paint in my nose, and I give that 2 coats of pink paint. The key to making the whites of the eyes as well as small lines is to use a very thin liner brush. Now this brush has been with me for many years, and it's my favorite brush to do designs like this. And so liner brushes can be purchased anywhere. It's just to use the thinnest liner brush that you can get. Okay, so then now I'm just going to shade my bunny, and so I'm just using gray. Slate gray is the name of this acrylic paint, and so I'm just using my 1/2 inch flat paintbrush, and I dip half of my brush in paint, the other half in clean water, and then I blend on a paper towel. Then I go around whatever I want to shade, and that gives me the look that I would like. And so then next I am just taking a 1/4 of an inch flat paintbrush because it's a little bit smaller space, and I'm just shading black around the nose. In my Amazon store is my favorite paintbrushes. If you want to see exactly which paintbrushes I use, they're my favorite. Okay, so then now I'm just taking an ultrafine Sharpie marker and just drawing out the mouth for my cute little bunny. Just to add a little highlight to my nose, I just took some white paint and just gave it a little swoosh. Okay, so now I'm going to work on my sign, and I have my bunny positioned, and I want to, leave enough space for my letters. I'm using that same color of gray, which was slate gray, and I'm just taking a liner brush and just giving it some lines on the background just to give it a, decoration, kind of break up the background a little bit. And then I'm going to hand letter my Happy Easter on the sign. Now, I have been painting for many years. It is some God-given talent, and I do appreciate so many kind comments on, you like my lettering style, and I owe all the glory to God because He is the one who has given me this talent as well as the patience to be able to hand letter like this. And so I am here to encourage you as well as to inspire you that, I was determined to learn how to write with a paintbrush, and so I kept practicing and never gave up. Now, I have found a font that is a free font. It's called Gel Dotica, and it is from defont.com. It's a free download, and it is one of the best, I guess, letterings that I've found. I kind of consider my lettering style the Tinker Toy font. I found that font a long time ago. I think now you need to pay for it, but I did find this Gel Dotica font for a free download. And I shared that so that if you want to download the font, and then use like some carbon paper or tracing paper, you can, type out the letter on your computer, and then you can transfer it onto a sign and kind of follow the tracing of the Gel Dotica font, and that will give you this dotted look the way that I like to do for my signs and my letters. For my projects, I always do the extra, and that is just, something that is in me. I just love to do extras just like this with putting little highlights on the end of my dots. It's just something that I like to do, and I do appreciate so many comments and so many friends saying that they love that I do the extras, because I really feel that when you do the little extras, it does show through your project. Okay, so another thing I like to do is shade around my letters, just to, you know, bring them out a little bit. It kind of adds a little bit more definition, a little bit more depth, and also it just really adds character to your project. And I just use that. I'm using a 1/4 inch flat paintbrush and just doing the same thing, dipping half of it in paint, the other half in clean water, blending on a paper towel, and then I'll go around each letter just to give it a little bit of shadow, shading, and a little bit of highlight. So I take it a step further and go around my letters with my ultrafine Sharpie marker, just to give it some squiggles and some, you know, just some little extra. It's just something that I like to do, and it's kind of my signature. It is kind of what makes my projects pop a little, and I just go around the letters just like that, and just give it, you know, just a little bit more definition and highlight. And then I'll take my fine Sharpie marker and I go around the entire project just to give it some doodling. I love to doodle. I love happy dots. I love all of the paint splatters. I'm going to be doing that next. And to paint splatter, I do get some, you know, comments, and I'll get some private messages to ask about my paint splattering. Now, I have found over the years, just by trial and error, is to make sure that the paint is of an ink consistency. You know, you don't want it to be too thick, because you'll have it won't splatter quite as well, and too thin, you're going to have a watered down look. So I just get it to be an ink consistency, and I get the best result by using a stiff stencil brush. Of course, a toothbrush will work as well, and I use a stick to glide across my my stiff brush, and so I pull the stick toward my body, where then the paint will, you know, go off on the project, and I make sure that my table, or where I am splattering, is covered, because paint does go everywhere. But I usually do black first, and then I go over it with white, just to give it the look that I like. A bunny would not be complete without some cute whiskers, and I use wire that I get from the Dollar Tree. It is in the automotive section. I get asked, this is probably one of my most asked comments or questions. It is in the automotive section. It's very pliable, and I love to work with it. It's not stiff, and so anyway, I cut 6 pieces, so I'm going to use 3 on each side, and I just took a paintbrush and just wrap them so that they're curly. Then I'm going to drill just a very small hole on each side of the nose, and I take those 3 wires and I kind of twist them all together. I use my needle nose pliers if I need them, just to twist them, you know, make sure that they're all together. And then I just thread it through that hole, and I put a little bead of hot glue in the hole, and then I just, you know, thread my wire through there, and then just kind of bend it on the back. And the headband that I'm going to be using next for the ears is going to kind of give it some height, and so everything stays nice and snug. We have to make a cute small bow for the top of my bunny. So I'm just sharing with you here my trims. I pulled out different trims. I get them at, you know, different stores, Walmart, the craft stores, Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Joann's, anywhere I can find small trims like this. At the Dollar Tree, that is where I got that polka dot burlap. And so I originally cut my ribbons that polka dot at 6 inches, and then by the time I dovetailed it, it was like down to 5 inches. And so that just kind of gives you an idea of what the size is for these trims. And then I just, layer them all together. I kind of crisscross them, make a funky bow, refab bow, junk bow, whatever, you choose to call it. And so then I use a pipe cleaner just to get things really tight so that my ribbons pop. Okay, so I have these headbands that I got at Hobby Lobby, and the two that I picked up were this blue as well as a pink. I couldn't decide which one I was going to use, but I decided to use the blue. So what I'm showing you here is the ears are a little too wide for me for this size of this bunny. So I cut the headband in half. I just cut it with my scissors, and then I just layer it on top of each other to make my ears a little bit more closer for this bunny, because they were too wide for me. And so I just hot glue all of that together, and then I just hot glue that to the to my sign. Now, originally, when I first made this project, I had attached it. I made the sign for a wreath. Y'all know that I love to design wreaths. I do sell them locally in my hometown. That is the only place that you can get them right now. And so since I was doing this video, I had to attach, well, when I did the wreath, I kind of like wired it on to be part of the wreath. But since I was making this sign, I had to glue the actual headband to the sign, and then position my bunny face on there and hot glue that as well, and everything worked out great. So I have this sign ready to go for another wreath. So then lastly here, I am just attaching my small bow with some hot glue, and I do use Gorilla Glue sticks and have the best results with that, because that does stand up to the Texas heat. Okay, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this project as much as I did. Like I said, I have made a couple of wreaths with this sign, and probably going to be making some more. Like I said, I do sell them locally at a local store in my hometown. Okay, I'm using one of the Grapevine bunnies from Hobby Lobby, as well as some canvas that I took off of the frames from a reverse canvas project. The fabric is this buffalo check black and white that I got from Walmart, and then also some heat and bond. Okay, so because my canvas were not long enough or big enough, wide enough, whatever, I need to go ahead and splice them together, and I do that with the heat and bond. One was from a 12 by 12, and one was from another size, and so I just took some of the heat and bond and just kind of splice that together before I figure out my fabric. My little heating tool is my Cricut Heat Press Mini, and mini is the word because it doesn't, cover a big area. So an iron would also work as well. And so I just spliced those together so that I would have enough canvas for my bunny. So I unroll my little fat quarter, and I just use my heat tool just to get off this sticker. That kind of helps a little bit. And then I measure out my heat and bond on my canvas. I don't want to waste the heat and bond, so I just kind of measure it out and try to guesstimate as much as I could so that I won't have some waste to it. And so I did have to splice this together as well, because the heat and bond was not quite the way that I had positioned it. I had to kind of splice it together, but it worked for me for my project, because I am going to add a cute bow to the bunny, and everything is going to be glued down, and so everything is just going to work just fine. You know, I was determined to figure out how to, get this buffalo check pattern on this bunny. And it really does seem, as I'm going through this video, it really does seem like to be a lot of steps. But I enjoyed the process and actually creating a buffalo check grapevine bunny out of things that I already had on hand. So I am super proud of myself. So I am just, laying out my fabric now, because once I take off the back of the heat and bond, I need to press it to the fabric. And so I'm just using my little Cricut mini heat press. You know, like I said, you can see that it's a really, really small. I should have pulled out my iron, but it was okay. I enjoyed using it. Like I said, I wasn't in a hurry. So then now I'm just laying out my grapevine bunny. And so now you can see why I kind of spliced everything together so that I can take my pencil and draw out or trace out the bunny on the outer side. And then I'm going to hot glue all of this canvas directly to the grapevine, and it has held up nicely. I don't have any problems. I did work in sections with gluing it down so that so that it would adhere very nicely, the canvas, to the grapevine. And working in small sections, I made sure that I pulled it around, like pulling it on both sides, so that I wouldn't have it off center. My little masking tool from the Dollar Tree works great and helped protect my fingers from hot glue burning them. Now everything is all nice and glued down, so let's make a cute bow for this bunny. So these are the ribbons that I'm using. They either came from Craft Outlet, Michael's, or Hobby Lobby. I'm also using some greenery as well as some daisies. And so I'm using my Easy Bow Maker that I got at decoexchange.com. It is my favorite bow making tool at the moment. And so I am just measuring out about 4.5 inches of loops, and the tails are probably about 5 inches. And so I just measure my loops, and I just twist the ribbon so that the right side would be up on top. And so now I'll just make 4 loops, 2 on each side. Then I'll move on to my next ribbon. For each layer of ribbon, I will make the bow loops about 1/4 or 1/2 of an inch smaller, so that the bottom ribbon is my largest loop, which was 4.5 inches, and then my next loops I will make a little, about a 1/2 of an inch smaller, and then I'll proceed with my next ribbon and make that about a 1/2 of an inch smaller. And depending on how many ribbons I'm using in my bow will just really depend how I'm going to loop my bow. But my favorite method is by going a 1/2 of an inch smaller on each of the loops. Okay, I share these projects because it's something that I am doing and I want to inspire other people, but I want to make sure that I do say this respectfully. If you as the viewer of the project feel that the bow is too big or too full, then just use less ribbon, or just use a different sizing wise, as I went back and I took the pictures of the finished bunny, I said, I'm going to get some comments to say your bow's too big for your bunny. I don't think it is, because my customer base loves big bows. So I respectfully say, if you don't like big bows, then make your ribbon smaller in length and make the bow as small as you would like it to. To secure my bow, I'm just taking a pipe cleaner, and I will carefully take off my bow off of the Easy Bow Maker, just trying to hold my ribbons, so they don't shift. And then I'll just take the pipe cleaner, curl it around the bow itself, and then I will twist it as tight as I can to get my ribbon tails to pop up, and where it makes my bow look very nice. And so the tighter I can twist that pipe cleaner, the more my ribbon tails will pop. And then I'm gonna dovetail all of the ends of the ribbons, and just with my scissors I just make a V-cut or a dovetail. And then to attach the bow to my bunny, what I've done is I had to make a small hole, or actually pull a little bit of the canvas buffalo check fabric away from the grapevine, because I want to wrap my bow, that pipe cleaner, around my grapevine. I just add some greenery, little sticks, as well as some daisies to some of the loops of the bow, just kind of hot gluing that in there, and making sure that it's all nice and secure. To hang it, I just took a half of a pipe cleaner and just hot glued it to the back, and just covered up the ends of it with some felt so that it was more secure. All right, so I'm going to make a small little bow for the top of my bunny. So I'm just using some yellow ribbon that I had, and just making a 2-loop bow, just using a pipe cleaner just to, secure it in the middle. And then I'm just kind of fiddling with it just to make sure that I like the, that it's even on both sides, and I just glue that to the top, kind of off to the side. And once I have all that secure, then I'm going to include a sunflower, just one small sunflower, and just hot glue that like that, because the sunflower kind of matches the ribbon that I've selected for my little farmhouse bunny. I'm super happy the way that this turned out. So here I'm sharing some more inspiration of different colors. This just screams spring to me. I just love it so much, and I hope that you do too. I am sharing my farmhouse ribbon carrots. That's right. I am using this orange and white checkered ribbon that I got over at Joann's back in the fall season. So keep that in mind, guys, when you are seeing things in the store and seeing them on clearance. You can use them for other holidays and other seasons. So I am cutting this ribbon at 9 inches, but actually I only needed about probably 7 inches because I cut it a little bit too long, but I wanted a longer carrot. So what I'm doing here, now stay with me, I am going to make a carrot out of this ribbon. So what I did is I put some hot glue on the ends there. I didn't measure or anything. I'm just basically guesstimating it to make a point. You can always measure because I know that there are a lot of OCD crafters and I appreciate you, but I guesstimate a whole lot, and if it doesn't work out, then I just kind of figure it out to make it work. So I have my fingertips, my pink fingertips that I do have a link in the description below. They're in my Amazon store. Those work great for projects like this because I don't want to burn my fingers because that happens. I have had some friends, many friends, that shared with me that they found their pink fingertips over at Dollar Tree. Since doing this project, I've discovered the mask applicator, little tool that is sold at the Dollar Tree in the makeup section. These things work wonderful, and mine is pink that you may see in future projects. Okay, so back to the carrot here. I just put a bead of glue down the sides, and I'm going to, make sure that it is all secure. And then I'm just using some stuffing. You can use an old pillow, or you can use a stuffed animal. You can use old socks. You can use plastic bags. They're a great way to recycle those. Or use anything that you may have that I'm not thinking about and failed to mention. So I'll continue to use my little craft stick here, or you could use a dowel or something else that you can get your stuffing or whatever you want to stuff your carrot with, that you can get in there where it is, you can make your carrot as skinny or as fat as you would like. Anyway, so then now I have some muslin fabric, and I'm showing you this here. I've showed you this many times. What I like to do is cut it about an inch and then rip it down the middle, and there I get the ragged, jaggedy edges, which I like in my rustic country crafting. So then I don't close my carrot up all the way, like stuff it all the way to the top, because I need a place where I can gather it and tie the bow around it. So then this foliage is new to me this year from the Dollar Tree. So I cut off a sprig of that, and then I'm just going to hot glue and stick it down in the middle there, and then just gather it and then tie my muslin bow on there. And this is just the patterns that I am using. You can use anything that matches your decor and matches your style. This is just an idea that I like to share with you, and I appreciate all of your sweet and kind comments. But really, guys, make it your own by using ribbons that you already have, using things, kind of thinking outside of the box. That's really my intention here, is just help you think outside the box and think of things that maybe you already have that you can use, that we don't have to buy a bunch of craft supplies. I just love the way that these little carrots are turning out now. I've already made 2 other ones. The 8-inch one is what we made here today. I also made a 6-inch one and a 5-inch one, but depending on how you cut your carrot will depend on what length your carrot will be. So to style mine, I picked up this Easter scatters and fillers from Hobby Lobby baskets that I have had for many years. I think I got them over at pickyourplum.com. I'm not affiliated with them. I just love Pick Your Plum because they have amazing deals. Anyway, so I'm just putting my carrots in my basket, and then I have this scatters and fillers with the rustic, mossy farmhouse theme that is so popular now. Anyway, so I am just sticking all of this stuff, or trying to stick all of this stuff in, and I will take a picture at the end, so you will definitely see how I styled my little carrots and these Easter eggs. Next up, are my faux spring Easter wood books. Now I designed these to look like books, but they're actually wood blocks. Now I was inspired by Pinterest, so I will have my inspiration linked in the description box below so that you can check it out. Anyway, this wood pile package is from Hobby Lobby. It was $4.99. I used a 40% off coupon. What I did is I took 3 of the books or 3 of the blocks, and I gave them 2 coats of plaster chalk paint. I didn't get that on camera because y'all have seen lots of painting in the past. Anyway, then I'm just taking my fine Sharpie marker and just hand lettering some just spring Easter. I'll do carrots on one. I will actually hand draw some carrots on the other one, and then I'll use my ultra fine Sharpie marker to give some doodling. I'll use my vintage photo distress ink to give some distressing to the books, and then I will show you how I made the bow. For my next project, I'm sharing my Farmhouse wooden truck. Now, this truck is from Dollar General. I picked it up in the spring of 2020. And this truck right here, also from Dollar General, was my inspiration for the color combination. And so what I'm showing you here is just a quick overview of what I did to paint this truck. Now, I do have a, my original video that I will link in the description. That way it kind of slows it down a little bit so that, if you want to catch the paint as well as, all of the shading and everything that I do, I usually go over that in the original video of how I like to paint, my sizes of brushes that I use. And so, any time that you don't catch anything, you can always leave me a comment and I will, try to answer it the best that I can. So at first I was going to, paint the eggs and design them, make them cute. But then I was like, that's kind of boring. So I cut out some of the sheet moss, also from the Dollar Tree, and that is what I included and glued onto the eggs. And then I have some cute carrots, foam carrots from Hobby Lobby, and that is also what I included on this truck. I'm painting 2 of these split 1-inch wood balls. I got these over at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to paint those silver because that's what I'm using for my hubcaps. To decorate the back of my truck, I'm using these carrots from Hobby Lobby. Now, I had these from last season, but I know that they do have them this year. Anyway, they're a bit too orange for me, so I'm just taking my plaster color Waverly chalk paint and just giving them a coat of chalk paint. And if you get a little bit too much paint on them like I did, I'm going to show you, if you take a baby wipe and just go over it, it will take off some of that chalk paint where I got it a little bit too dark. Love to doodle and I love to splatter paint my projects. I don't care if it's old school. My heart is splattered with black and white paint. I love to do it and I will do it until the day that I die. I just love it for my projects. It's my style and I love it. I also cut out some of this sheet moss and glued it to the stand. These particular trucks from the Dollar General come with a stand for the truck to sit up in. And so I just measured it out and just cut it, just making sure that I did not glue it where the truck, can still stand in that slit right there. I'm cutting my carrots in half using my serrated knife. I keep one of these in my craft room for projects like this. Anyway, I'm cutting these in half because I want them to lay flat on the bed of my truck. So then now I'm going to start gluing everything on my truck. I glue my silver hubcaps on there, and then I have the moss that I use to cover up those eggs. And then now I'm just going to glue my eggs onto the bed of my truck. To kind of help cover the bottom, I am using my favorite fine Excelsior. I know you can get Excelsior at the Dollar Tree or other places, but I like the fine Excelsior because it is more wispy and rustic for my projects. And I like to get it at Joann's Craft Store or either on Amazon. And I'm just loving the way that this all looks together. I just hand painted and hand lettered a little Farm Fresh carrot sign for the side of my truck. I wasn't sure what I was going to do and I kept playing around with it, and then this is what I came up with. I just hand lettered Farm Fresh carrots, put my little happy dots on there. My heart is splattered and dotted just with all the goodness because I love it. I know it's old school, but I love it so much and it is my style and it is what I are my mini fabric wrap carrots for my pocket. Now these are the supplies that I'm using. Some little mini carrots from the Dollar Tree, as well as some foliage, some different fabrics, some raffia, and some ribbon. So the first thing I did is I cut a little less than an inch of fabric and I just tore it down the side. I like to do that to give the ragged, jaggedy edge. And then I just started wrapping the carrot and I just hot glued along the way. To embellish the top, I'm using some of this new foliage, or it's new to me this year, from the Dollar Tree. I just cut off a stem of that and just poked a hole in the top and just continued to wrap my fabric around the carrot until it closed it up at the top. I'm not too worried about the top because I'm going to add some more fabric and a cute little bow. I'll just continue to do the same thing with the muslin carrot as well as the black and white polka dot carrot. One thing that wasn't in my supply picture is this hemp cording or jewelry cording. I like to use this just as a little bit of softness to my projects. My next project is sharing how I created the Rustic spring pocket. I'm using one of the tags from Dollar Tree, as well as some scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby and some Mod Podge. So I'm going to try my best to get off as much glitter as I can using my sanding sponge. And I wanted to use the front of it, but I could also use the back. But I just wanted to kind of give you that different ideas of what you could do if you have something that has glitter on the front. You can use your sanding sponge and get that glitter off. So I'm just tracing my tag out and just going to cut it out, and then I will Mod Podge it onto my tag. Now my pocket is going to cover that bottom, but it bothered me that I didn't cover it all the way. So it's just, a personal thing. So once I got my scrapbook paper on there, I took my sanding sponge and went around the edges to expose a little bit of the white. I think it brings out the rusticness of the project. Then I went back over it and used my little distressing ink pad and provided some distressing. It's just really a personal thing that I like to do. So then now I just have a piece of burlap. It's about 6 inches, and I'm going to make a pocket. And I think that this was the perfect size for this little project here. And then I'm just taking my hot glue and I'm just kind of wrapping it around the project, just like a present. And I keep checking the front of the pocket just to make sure that I can get my carrots and my other embellishments in there, because I don't want it to be too tight to the sign where I don't get my stuff inside. So I just have this white fleece that I had on hand, and I'm just using it as a stuffer to kind of give it some height so that I don't have to, my carrots don't go too far down in there. But this is just a personal preference. You could use stuffing, you can use old socks, you can use anything that will give your project some bulk and some height. I like to use my fine Excelsior for little projects like this because it provides a bit of wispiness that I like for my projects. Now I know that Dollar Tree and other places have the larger Excelsior. I get mine at Amazon, and also over at Joann's craft store seems to have the fine Excelsior that I like to use for my projects because it's just a little thinner, and like I said, it gives a bit of wispiness to my project. To create the sign for my spring pocket here, I'm using one of these large craft sticks. Now this pack came from Walmart. In my sign, I don't want the rounded edges, so I'm just cutting those off with my scissors. And then I'm going to give the sign a coat of khaki acrylic paint, and I also got that over at Walmart because it's an Apple Barrel brand. And then I have 2 3/8-inch furniture plugs that I'm just going to put on the end of my sign just for a little added rustic character. And I'm just also giving that a coat of paint. Now to make the bunny treat sign, I am just taking my black Sharpie marker and just hand lettering bunny treats on there. I do my little signature by adding the happy dots on the ends of my letters. That is just a personal preference of what I like to do for my signs. You can use stickers. You could cut it out. If you do have a vinyl cutter, you could cut it out on your electronic die cutting machine. You could print something off of your computer, and you can, rip the paper to give it a jagged edge, and you can create something that has the look that you are wanting. And so here back to my little sign, I'm just going to add some distressing. I did some distressing around the edges of my sign. And then also I have these large Q-tips that I got at the Dollar Tree many years ago. And I just use them to, just add a bit of rustic distressing to my projects by going around my letters and distressing different things that I have. So then now I just hot glued my sign to my pocket board. And then for my hanger, I'm just using my piercing tool. These boards are cardboard and very easy just to give it a little pressure and give a hole, so you don't need to have a drill for that. And then I'm just going to make a hanger for my board by using this wire. I like to get my wire over at the Dollar Tree in the automotive section. It is thin and it just is pliable, and it's a very workable, and it is my favorite wire at this time. I'm going to add some wood beads as well as some fabric to my wire. And the fabric is just to give it a decorative also, as well as stopping those beads where I want them. It just kind of adds a barrier so the beads don't slip all the way down on the sign hanger. And then I just do that on both sides. I used 8 beads and I just left it in the natural look because I like that for this rustic project. And just adding 4 on each side. These are the ribbons that I'm going to use for my messy bow. I don't know if it has a name. I just call it a messy bow. Anyway, they're cut about 6 inches, 5 to 6 inches. Some of them I left straight, some of them I diagonaled, some of them I dovetailed. It just really depended on what mood I was in, honestly. And so just by layering these on top of each other, I get the look that I want. And just by using all the different ribbons, I get so much different texture. For the center, I'm just using some of that hemp cording or jewelry cording. I just make a 6-loop bow, 3 on each side. I tie that in the middle, and then I just gather it all with my fingers. And as you can see, I have a black clip or clamp that I keep everything together until I'm ready to secure it with the chenille stem. And so then I put my hemp cord bow on there and just pull it tight with my chenille stem. I just glued this cute bow to the top of the sign and used my clamp to hold it together until it completely dried. Then I took a strip of the coordinating fabric that I had for the carrots, and I just wrapped it around the pocket and just knotted it off there, and just trimming off the ends with my scissors. I'm going to make a cute little carrot sign. I like to get these tags. I think they're in my Amazon store, and I tea stained them many years ago. I have a whole bunch of them that I had in a drawer, and so I just am using my black Sharpie marker, and then I hand letter carrots, 5 cents, and then I take my ultrafine Sharpie marker and just do some stitching around the edges of it and just doodle that up, because that is what I like to do. Again, you could use stickers, you could use a die cut to create something like this. And then of course I like to bend it to give just some rustic ness to it. And then using my distress inks, I just give it even more of a distressed look and rusticness to it. To attach the cute carrot sign or tag to my pocket, I'm using these rusty safety pins. Now, I found an excellent video here on YouTube that shows how to rust metals, and I will have it linked in my description box below because it is the most easiest to follow to rusting metal, and I will be doing more of that. Anyway, so I bought these safety pins, I think at Walmart, just a pack of these, and then I did them all at one time. And so to attach the carrot sign, I am just clipping that to the burlap. If you've been with me for a while, you know that I go above and beyond and add a lot of details to my projects, and this is no exception. So I have one of these small signs from the Dollar Tree. They come 4 in a pack. They're usually in the floral section, and I decided to paint today only, and I'm going to stick that into my pocket. And so I just have a number 2 liner paintbrush and some white paint and just writing today only. And then I will add the happy dots with the end of my paintbrush. Okay, I'm using one of these little signs that I got from the Dollar Tree, and then to emboss my paper, what I used is my Cuttlebug and a Cuttlebug folder. And what I did, the Cuttlebug is just a handheld crank machine that you can emboss different papers, and use my Cuttlebug to add, some embossing to my paper. And so it worked out great. It gave me a great embossed look for my paper. Habitat glue just to glue that down there in the front. And I got a little ahead of myself. I wanted to paint the sides pink, and I'm using the cactus pink color from Americana. And so then I said, well, I need to go ahead and paint that. So that's what I did. I then added a piece of pink and white buffalo check paper to the back to finish it off. All right, I'm sharing this with you. I was so happy to find this set from Hobby Lobby. It's a neutral color ink, and y'all know, if you've watched my videos for a while, you know that I like to distress and ink around my project. And so now what I'm doing is I am going to be creating my face for my bunny. And so what I do is I just use some coral color paint, and I just put some cheeks on. I use a stencil brush, and I have said I like the more rectangle shape, so I just take that stencil brush and just add some rectangle cheeks. Then I'll just use my marker just to draw some eyes and create the little eyes for my bunny. And I like the more almond shape, that kind of touch at the top. Everyone does their eyes a little bit different, but I'm just kind of sharing my style of what I like to do for my little faces. And then I'll use a thin brush just to make some eyelashes as well as some eyebrows, and then just continue to doodle it up by adding some character to the face with some lines, and then doodling everything up with my black Sharpie marker. I also do some paint splattering, and again, just quickly to paint splatter, what I do is I like to use a stiff brush and a stick, and I run the stick over the brush one time toward my body, and then that projects the paint onto whatever I'm trying to do. And I never go back, like away from my body, because then the paint would go on me. And so I've been getting some questions on that, so I just wanted to clarify for anyone who likes paint splattering and wanted to perfect it a little bit more. For my whiskers, I decided to do some gray whiskers. So I'm just using some of this wire that I had on hand. And I think I got that a long time ago from the Dollar Tree. And what I'm using here to curl it is my curling tool that a sweet friend and follower, y'all have been seeing me use this in lots of my videos. Miss Jan Blackwell sent those to me, and I'm so appreciative. I don't expect it, but it's greatly appreciated when y'all send me sweet happy mail that, you know, makes my life a lot easier. Anyway, I do have a link for you know, where you can find those. A look in the description box below, and I love them. They're like 4 different sizes, and so depending on how tight I want my curls will depend on how tight you know, or which rod I'm going to use. All right, so what I did is I just drilled, just used my electric drill and just drilled a hole where I, you know, like where the nose is going to go. And then I stuck all of those wires in there. And then I have a 20M size half wood bead that I also painted in that cactus flower pink. And so then that is what is going to, I'm going to glue everything down right there. And you know, the black would have shown up a little bit more, but in person, the gray gives me those gray whiskers that I like. And so then I just drew a little mouth with my ultrafine Sharpie marker. Now for the ears, I've decided I want this bunny to be a little simple and not get over, you know, with the, you know, making the ears and stuff. So I'm just using some white floral wire, just, you know, bent them in the ear shape. And then I just took my electric drill and drilled 2 holes there at the top. And then to give myself a little more time, you know, because hot glue dries so fast, I use my Fabri-Tac glue and that, you know, put it in that hole. And then I just bent my wire, you know, in the ear shape that I want. And then I just stuck them in there. And that Fabri-Tac glue gave me, you know, the time that I needed to, you know, get the size and the shape of the ear that I wanted. For the bow, I'm just pulling out just different things that I like to use, just some different size ribbon. I have some fabric, I have some trims, some pom-poms, and you know, just different ribbons that I like. So I just crisscross them like in an X pattern and just layer them the widest to the skinniest. That's usually how I do it. And then I just secure everything with a pipe cleaner. For the center of the bow, I'm going to make a small felt flower, and I'm just going to share here real quick how I make my felt flowers. I just cut off a square of the felt, and then I fold it in half and then fold it in half again, and then I just take my scissors and round off the corners, and so that I have kind of like a, you know, somewhat of a circle or whatever. And then I just start somewhere, and then depending on how wide or how tall I want my flower will depend on how big I am going to cut my spiral. And so I'm moving my felt versus my scissors, and so then I get a spiral. And so then where that point is, that's where I'm going to start. And so I just put some glue on there, and then I just start rolling the flower on top of each other. And then I'm just kind of pushing it and scrunching it together, and you know, giving it a dot of hot glue as I go along until I get the flower shape that I want. And so honestly, this flower I should have cut my spiral a little bit thinner because once I was making my flower, it was a little bit too tall. So once I finish, or I got the size of the flower that I wanted, because I only wanted a little small flower there for my little bunny. And so then what I did is once I got it all done, then I ended up cutting like it in half, and I hope that makes sense, you know, like in half the width of it, or the tallness, the height of it. And so then that gave me, you know, it's a little bit more closer, you know, I didn't want it to stick out so far, so that's why I cut it down a bit. I'm starting with this truck that I've got, you know, several years ago from the Dollar Tree, and I just took off. It came with like a metal leaf on there, and then this is the paper I'm going to use to be covering it. It came from Hobby Lobby, and I just traced that out, cut it out, you know, to match the front of the truck. And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint around the edges of the truck. I'm going to do black for the tires, and then I just go around the truck just with some pink color. This is an Americana paint. Cactus Flower is the name of the paint that I'm going to use, just so that if, you know, my paper gets off just a bit, you know, I have those ends painted. All right, so I'm going to use the hot Mod Podge heat transfer method, and how I do that is just take some Mod Podge, and I pay special attention to go around the edges, and then once it dries, then I'm going to use some I'm just going to use my iron and some parchment paper just for like protection, and then I just, you know, heat transfer that paper on to this truck. Now I'm going to paint on the back glass as well as the bumper, and I'm using the color Slate Gray. It's an Americana brand as well, and I'm just kind of, you know, sharing, you know, just the brands that I like to use and the colors that I like to use. And so I think this took like 2 coats, and I just, you know, painted that on, just kind of freehanding that, not really drawing it out, but just kind of figuring out where all of that goes. And then what I'll do is I'll just take my paintbrush, my flat brush, and do some shading around the edges just to give it some definition. And I like to shade by using a 1/2 inch flat paintbrush and some clean water, and I dip half of my brush in paint, the other half in clean water, and then I blend on the paper towel and go around my edges like that. And so then for the tires, what I do is I do the same thing with white and just shade around, and then I'm going to use my fan brush, just a few bristles of my fan brush, just to give it some treads of the tires. And that's what I've been doing for several years, and I just like it. You know, it just really makes those little tires pop. And so then just to give it a little shimmer to my back glass, what I'm going to use is this shimmering silver paint that I get from Hobby Lobby. It's in the, you know, acrylic paint section. And so then what I do is I give, you know, just different parts, just kind of highlighting it, just to give it a reflection in my glass, and as well as my bumper. So then once all the paint is dry, what I'll do is I'll just take my liner brush and just give it some character with just some white lines, and then I will doodle everything up with my fine Sharpie marker. for my tailgate, what I'm going to use is one of these wood slats that you can get in a pack in, you know, wherever they're sold, and also some baby pink Americana colored paint. I'm also using 4 tumbling tower blocks just to give it some height, and I painted my wood, all of the wood, with 2 coats of the baby pink, and then I'm going to go in with white acrylic paint just to, you know, give it the background so that I can do my lettering. I will add a border around it with some of that white paint. I will also, on the sign, I will just add some stripes with some of that slate gray paint just to give it some, you know, character and definition and cuteness of what I like to do for my projects. Then I'm going to hand letter it using a black like paint pen. This is a Posca pen. It's the largest one, and I get that from Amazon. That's where I find them. They're in my Amazon store, and then I shade everything either with the white or the slate gray paint. And for my lettering, I do like to put happy dots on my lettering, and I have found a free font from defont.com. I will link to that as well if anyone is interested in downloading that font and practicing and that kind of thing. And I appreciate you loving my happy dots as much as I do. Now I'm going to add some black paint splatters, and I do that just using a stiff brush and a stick, and I just pull the stick across the bristles one time toward my body so that the paint projects onto my project. And then I went back and added just some highlights, just using some of the white paint just to, you know, give it just a little bit of highlight. Now, when I use the Posca pens, they do tend to smear, so this is the sealer that I like to use for sealing those signs. Now, I'm going to add some of these small wooden eggs. I painted up 5 of those in just this pink, white, and that slate gray color, and then these are the paints that I'm using just to decorate. I was just kind of going with a little color scheme here, and so I just did like zigzags and dots and stripes and just all kind of cute stuff just to make them look cuter. And then those are what I'm going to stick into my tailgate. So what I'm doing to prepare my tailgate is I just have some floral foam that I just cut down, and then I glue those jingle blocks just to give it, you know, some height, and then that's what I'm going to glue onto the back of the truck. And then the styrofoam, that is what I stick into, you know, my flowers and my eggs are going to stick into. I also added some fine Excelsior, which I like to do. These are the florals that I'm using. They either came from Hobby Lobby, Walmart, or Dollar Tree, and so there you can see I have the fine Excelsior stuck in there. It gives a whimsical look. And so then I just kind of went through here, and just as I added the flowers, I just kind of showed you as I built them rather. And you know, I just really love these little teal turquoise mini roses that I picked up from Hobby Lobby, and then everything just is just tying so well together. I'm just so happy with it. Now for the eggs, what I did is I have these skinny wooden sticks, and so instead of painting them, I'm just using some washi tape and some gray and then some pink. I just wrap some washi tape around them just to give it a little character, and then I cut them down a bit so that they wouldn't, you know, like they would fit the height that I wanted in my truck. And so then you know, it just ties everything together, and I just love this sweet little spring happy Easter truck. For the tail lights, what I'm using are two 20M split balls that I get from Amazon. And so I'm trying a new method or how to paint my split balls. I saw my friend Alyssa from Southern Crafts Corner do this. I thought it was genius. And so I just put a dot of hot glue on there, and then I'm just painting around them. It worked beautifully. Thank you, Alyssa, for showing how you do and paint your split beads. Anyway, I love the way that this truck turned out. Now, guys, I have a dilemma, and I've asked for y'all's help. There at the bottom where the tire was, I need something cute to say there. So give me your suggestions in the comments. Let me know what you would put there. And yeah, because I want something cute. I've got some suggestions already, but I wanted to ask my community to give me some more of what you would put there. Anyways, I love the way that this turned out, and I hope that you do too. For this project, I'm making a Happy Easter egg door hanger using one of those eggs from the Dollar Tree. Now this has some glitter on it, so I'll be sanding that off. I'm also using all of the paper that I'm using today is from this paper stack that I got from Michael's a few years ago, but there are friends that still have it. They told me they still have it. All right, so what I did is I sanded off the majority of the glitter, and then I wiped it off, you know, as best I could. And so then now I'm just kind of cutting these papers down so that I can tear them. I'm going to tear the edges, and I did tear both edges, not thinking, hey girl, why are you even wasting your time? Because one of them was going to be covered up. So I just, you know, wanted a torn edge, and I only really needed to tear one of the edges. So I'm going to start laying them out the way that I kind of want them on my egg. And then I said, oh, I want to distress the edges. So I pull out my vintage photo distressing ink, and I distress the edges, you know, to give it a rustic touch to it. And so I just use that with my little finger dauber and my little vintage photo ink, and just do that. Yeah, if you've been following me for any length of time, you have seen me do this already. Now, I do want to share one of my mess ups that I did. I'm just going to attach the paper with some double-sided tape. This is my adhesive tape glider that it just has, you know, adhesive tape, and I've had it for many years. I got it from Michael's. I do have it in my Amazon store, but as you can see here, I'm working at an angle, you know, not working upside down, you know, not upside down, right side up, like right in front of me. And so when I put my paper on, guess what? My paper was sideways, silly girl. And so I ended up, you know, pulling all of that off and then kind of having to start over once I realized that my paper was going crooked. And so, once I realized that you need to put your egg in front of you so that you can see and make it straight. So I'm just sharing if you do a project like this, that you don't make my mistake. for the hanger for my egg, I'm going to use some beads from this garland that I picked up after the fall season from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to be using 5 of those beads. I love the color of them already. I don't have to do anything to them. And then I just make a loop and going to tie that off so that, you know, it kind of stays. And then that loop is what I will hang on my hanger. And then I'm going to just cut off some of it. And then let me know your tips of how do you get the jute through your beads. I mean, is there a trick that I haven't seen yet? Because I usually use just Scotch tape, but you know, sometimes if the jute is thinner, I can just slide it through there with no problem. But I really struggle with getting jute through the you know, little holes of the beads or the balls, you know. And anyway, so then I just tied it off in a knot about 3 or 4 times so that it would, you know, be secure. All right, so then now I'm going to make a messy bow for this, and I love this jute ribbon that I got. I don't know what it's called. I guess it's ribbon from Hobby Lobby in the spring section. And so guys, I just cut off just, you know, different strips of burlap, and I have just different laces and trims and all of that fun stuff. Just pulled out colors from this egg and just, you know, layering them all. Then I'm going to gather all of that together. I also have just some extra strings from burlap that were kind of like hanging out. And I'm like, you know what? I love that. It just makes my messy bow a little bit messier. And so I just gather it all together. I secure everything with a pipe cleaner. And then I use my needle nose pliers to get a really good, you know, tight, you know, tightness to the back. And then I just attached it to, you know, glued it on to the corner of my egg, and I love the way that this is turning out. I hope you do too. I also added some fine excelsior into the middle of the bow just to add a bit more whimsy. And then I had made one of these felt flowers. It's like a peachy, pinky kind of tint. And I just put that there in the middle, and I just think it looks really pretty. All right, now I'm going to make just a small sign. I'm just going to hand letter with my fine Sharpie marker, Happy Easter. I put my happy dots on there. I also you know, give it the torn edges just to give it the jagged edge. I'm going to use that same vintage photo distress ink and, you know, just kind of roughen it up a little bit, just the way that I like. And then I'll attach it to my sign just using some pop dots or foam dots, photo dots, whatever you call them. I just glued those on the back just to give it a little bit of height. So I glued the smaller sign on there and thought that, oh, okay, this project is complete. So when I was doing the pictures and, you know, setting it up for my video, I'm like, oh gosh, girl, that is too small. So I went back and took that small sign off. I did a little bit larger one. I just hand lettered Happy Easter. I'm going to do the same technique as far as doodling around and adding some vintage photo distressing ink. I will crinkle it up to give it that aged look, and then I will attach it to the front of my sign with some of those foam dots just to give it some height. And I love this sign a little bit better. So it just really, you know, I don't really know what I was thinking, but once I put it on there and was taking my pictures for the video, I'm like, oh no, that little sign is too little. So that's why I went back and made another sign for the egg, and also I had just put little commas or just little white highlight in each of the happy dots, which I forgot to do on the little small one. So I'm glad that I redid it, and I hope that you do too. Hey friends, if you like little crafts like this, please follow or subscribe to my channel so that you won't miss any upcoming videos. Now I had one of these witch hats from the Dollar Tree on hand, and I thought I would make a carrot out of it. So this is the first one that I did, and I was not quite happy with it because I tried to get my orange burlap to kind of, go down like at a point, and I wasn't very successful. But on the second one, and that's what I'm showing you here in this tutorial, I'm going to show you what I did to get that point, and I am much happier. I used my wire cutters and I cut off a portion of the witch hat that had the curve on it. And then I'm going to use my zip ties, and I'm going to zip tie that frame together so that it makes a point. Now, the first time that I did this, it still was curved a little bit and I wasn't happy with it. But later on in the video, I actually move this little portion of the frame and I make it an even more of a point. So it can be done. So that's why I'm just kind of sharing that little tip. Anyway, I will just zip tie this little frame together, and then I'm going to move on to cutting my burlap. So these 6-inch burlaps are from Walmart, and I've had them on hand for quite a while, but I just kind of want to let you know where I got them from. Anyway, I just roll them out, and I'm counting my squares so that I will let you know, because a lot of people ask, how long did you cut them? I cut them at 5 inches each, and I find it easier if I lay them both out and cut them together, but you can definitely cut them one by one, but it's just a little bit easier, and I find that it helps me with cutting them out at the same time. I'm going to use our pipe cleaners to put this on my frame. And then what I'm showing you here is I just have them cut in thirds, and I keep them in this little bin that I got from the thrift store. To start with my green burlap, because I wanted to, I just found by working on the other one, the first one, that I want to put my green on first. So I have my 5-inch burlap, and then I just fold the corners down, and then I just scrunch it together, and then I have the points at the top and then also at the bottom, and then I'm starting on the bottom of the like where the brim would be on the witch hat, and then I just twist that burlap on there and then twist that around the back so that it's secure. My Tonic Studio brand scissors come in very handy for projects like this. Now, these are the 7-inch ones, and they're very short, and I can get in there and cut. These are good for wire, and something that's a little bit harder to cut. I have 2 pairs that you see me use. I have the short one, and then I also have the long blade ones. I like to use them because they cut wire, and they cut things that are a little bit harder that we don't want to mess up our good scissors for. And so anyway, now what I'm doing, I'll just continue to make my little petals here. This is the top of my carrot, and I'm just going around and just putting the green burlap. I'm not using the seamed edges of the burlap. I'm actually bending down the cut edges, and I make like just some triangles, scrunch them up in the middle, and then I hook it on and I tie it in the back because I'm going to cover the back of my carrot up with some felt so that it's all nice and tidy. Because I do sell a lot of my crafts. I work for part-time for a business here in my local town. And so I do like to have my crafts finished on the back so that everything is nice and tidy. For the orange part of the carrot, I have this 5-inch burlap, and I am just kind of bending over the edges and kind of scrunched in the middle, and then just going to do it the same way. I just take and I just start hooking it on the frame. Now I found that if I did a bunch of these at one time, then I could sit and hook them on all at one time. And so that's just kind of a little tip that is what works for me. Guys, if you recreate this, I encourage you. My channel is to inspire you to recreate anything that I do. And recently I've been getting a lot of, well, not a lot, but I've been getting some comments that says, you know, do you mind if I recreate this? And I do not. This is the reason why I put this here out on my channel. If it's something that I don't want you to recreate, I mean, I'm not going to show you, but that is the purpose. I want to share. God has given me this talent, and I want to share it with as many people that love country crafts as much as I do. So anything that you do, you are free to, you know, recreate, sell it at craft shows, decorate your home with it. I don't care, you know, it's just if you recreate it, you know, if you do a tutorial or if you share it, you know, just be courteous and maybe give credit for where you got the inspiration. That's the only thing that I do ask because it is the right thing to do, and I appreciate it. So I'm at the point now where I need to finish the bottom, and I'm still not happy with the way that this hooked together here. And I want it to be more of a, you know, tip at the bottom, kind of like how the carrot goes down. And so I cut that cable tie or zip tie that I had on there, and then I kind of made it a little more straight and tied it back together, and that works much better. So I'm more happier because it goes more to a tip. And so then now I'm just continuing to put the rest of my orange burlap on to finish out my carrot. I know I didn't film this part, but it's pretty simple. I just have 2 sheets of felt, and I just laid it across the back and just cut off the excess. Then I took my poking tool and poked a hole through the felt and just ran my zip tie through there, attaching it to the frame so that it would finish off the back. And I think that, you know, this just provides a little bit more, you know, courtesy to the customer, only so that you don't have this messy back showing, but it's definitely a personal preference. Now I'm going to share how I made this big old fluffy bow using these ribbons. Now a lot of these ribbons came from Hobby Lobby, or I had them on hand. So it's just a mix and match of different ribbons, like I said, that I had on hand. Now this ribbon is from Hobby Lobby. It is my favorite ribbon. It has burlap, and then it has the black and white buffalo check on the edges. Now I'm making 2 loops, and I cut off the tails. I use my tiny attacher. It's just a little bitty stapler. I will have a link in the description if you want to check it out a little bit more. Now this one right here is a buffalo check, and I'm just figuring out how big I want the loops, and then I just make 2 loops and then I use my tiny attacher to just secure it in the middle. This is what helps me make bows. And then I layer them all together, and then I secure them with a chenille stem and fluff them up, and I have a big old bow. Now, if big bows are not your thing, you can always adjust the size of your ribbon. So I'm going to show you how I cut the ribbon. I cut them, the middle pieces at 12 inches, but you can always adjust your inches, or you can eliminate some of the ribbons to make a smaller bow. This ribbon is from the fall season. I think I got it at Joann's. Anyway, I'm just cutting it at 12 inches, and then I dovetail the ends, and then I singe the ends with my lighter. It just kind of helps protect them so they don't fray over time. And then the next one I will cut at 12 inches as well. This burlap is from Hobby Lobby, and I dovetail the ends of those. This window pane ribbon is wire, and I'm just going to cut off a section. I'm not making a bow out of it. And actually, I'm going to twirl it or kind of loop it around to give some character to my bow. I'm doing the same thing with this orange burlap I had on hand, and it just kind of curls, and I'm just going to put that in the section of my bow to kind of give it some dimension. Now, this orange and white gingham, it's an Au Frais brand. I'm not quite sure where I got it, maybe Walmart. Anyway, so I just make 2 loops and secure it with my tiny attacher. The little tiny attacher has little bitty staples, and so then when I go to scrunch it up and put my chenille stem, it's not a big bulky staple. Anyway, I have some raffia, and then I'm just going to make a bow, just tying that into a knot, because I'm going to put this on my carrot because it's going to look so country and so cool, of course, with this raffia. So here are all of my ribbons. That's why I like to use my tiny attacher, because then now I will start stacking my ribbons and forming my bow. So this is my bottom layer. Then I have the buffalo check next. Then I have the burlap. I'm going to scrunch it up in the middle and kind of hold it with my left hand, because then I can, form. I'm forming my bow, and this just kind of helps me a little bit. So then I'm alternating that burlap 12-inch, the buffalo check, and then also the orange and white checkered ribbon. I just alternate those and kind of offset them just a little bit so that they do not, they're not like right on top of each other. The next I have the window pane, and I just have it draping down just to flip over. Then I have the orange burlap, and just kind of having that to drape down. Then I'm just layering on the rest of it. Then I have my raffia on top. I'm using a chenille stem to tie everything together. I just weave it through the back in between my fingers, then flip it over, and then I try to get the chenille stem as tight as I can. Sometimes I can get it just with my own strength, but other times I have to pull out my needle nose pliers to kind of help me get a very tight hold without breaking my wire. Anyway, and then I just fluff my bow. I'm going to secure it to the frame of the carrot, and, make sure that everything is, my ribbons aren't flipped, like maybe the back is showing or anything like that. I don't want anything like that. I just fluff my bow because that is so super important. To hang it, I just used a piece of wire, and I just slipped on 2 beads, and then that is how my carrot is going to hang. Again, if you want a smaller bow, you can definitely adjust the size of your ribbons, eliminate some of the ribbons, or enjoy the big bow, just like this one, how I showed you here in this video. This is my mason jar bunny spring decor. Now, these are the supplies that I'm using here for this project. And what I did is I used one of the plastic mason jars from the Dollar Tree, and I cut off about 3 inches of this pink and white gingham paper from Hobby Lobby, and I just rolled it up. I didn't even worry about cutting it. I just rolled it and stuck it inside the jar. Then now I'm using some blue and white gingham fabric and just tying just a, not even a bow, just tying a strip around that. And then I'm putting a piece of foam in the jar. And then for weight, I am using some glass beads. I just kind of stick those in there, and that just kind of gives my jar some weight. And then for some, to give a whimsical effect, I'm just using this fine Excelsior, just putting that in there. Then I found these pink hop bushes over at the Dollar Tree. I just cut those off and just stick them into the styrofoam. I love this shade of pink, and I think that they're just so pretty. And then these white berries are from Walmart. I just cut those off and just stick those in the jar as well. The greenery is from Hobby Lobby, and so I just stick some of that in there just to, you know, give it all a really nice look. One of the burlap bunny picks from the Dollar Tree is just what this little jar arrangement needs, and it just sticks right there in that styrofoam. Then I took some of the blue and white gingham fabric and just did like a bow tie, just tied a knot in the middle, and then just trimmed it off with my pinking shears. I think it gives it a really cute little edge. And then these are just pipe cleaners that I got from, I think, Hobby Lobby. And then I just curled them up with my finger and then just stuck those in there just for some extra dimension and cuteness. And I think this little arrangement just turned out adorable. I would love to know what you think, so leave me a comment below. For this project, I'm doing a cute little painted bunny block using one of the blocks from the Dollar Tree. Now this particular one had Happy Easter on it anyway, but I wanted to make it a little bit cuter. I'm also using a headband that had some cute gingham plaid ears on it. That is from the 99-cent store. I'm using some white chalk paint as well as some wire for the whiskers and a cute little wooden heart for the nose. Now for the bow, the ribbons, I will share that once I get to that point in the video because I wasn't sure what I was going to use. So what I'm doing here is what I did is I took off the paper the best that I could off of that block, and a sweet viewer left me a tip of how to get that paper off of these blocks by spritzing it with water. I did that and it worked great. So I just took all of that paper off of the block and gave it 2 coats of white chalk paint. Then now I am just doing some shading of gray. I think it's an apple barrel dolphin gray is what I'm using. And I use a flat paintbrush. I dip half of my brush in paint, the other half in clean water. I blend on a paper towel and then I go around the edges to give some shading. Then I'm using this pink for the cheeks. It's Americana bubblegum pink, and just stippling that on the block to give some cheeks. And then I just I like my cheeks to go up and down, but everyone has their own little personal preference of how they like their cheeks.
So, you know, sometimes in crafting, we look at something and we're like, you know, something is just not right about that. And so we, you know, do a little research and we're like, oh my goodness, I had put the bunny nose upside down. So thankfully, I was able to pull it off and then re-glue it. So no problem. And my bunny nose is correct. I'm calling this project my Painted Bunny block using one of the Dollar Tree signs that has Happy Easter on there. The bunny's cute, but I wanted to use the inside of it. I'm also using a wooden bunny from the Dollar Tree. I cut that out with that pink and white gingham paper. I thought I was going to use one of the bunny word signs from the 3-pack, also from the Dollar Tree. And then I thought I was going to use that scrapbook paper, but later in the video, you'll see that I changed it to a blue stripe. So what I'm doing now is Mod Podging the bunny onto the wooden little piece here. I let that completely dry before I put my top coat of Mod Podge on. So then now I'm trying to figure out how I want to cut my this paper in, you know, for the inside of my sign here. But then I figured, you know, that is way too much white. So I ended up, I had painted it with some chalk paint, but then I went back and painted it again with some pink because it was way too much white. And I wanted to incorporate some blue, so I changed my mind a lot on my projects in this series here. So then I have this blue and white striped paper that I'm going to put in the back of that on that sign. So then now I have just some gray ink, just pulled it out of my stash I had on hand, and then I just went around the edges of everything to give it a little bit of distressing. If you don't like that look, then totally skip that step. I get some comments sometimes, you know, how I totally ruined the project because I did a certain distressing. These are just ideas, you know, you can take it or leave it or, you know, add what you want, you know, skip what you don't want. I say that, you know, respectfully, but really these are just really ideas. So then I'm going to add some white stripes along the top and the sides of the pink box because it was a little bit too much and I wanted to add a little bit of more cuteness to it. Totally take or leave anything that I share with you. Totally just, you know, do your own thing. Then I just added some rickrack to the box and gonna adhere my bunny. So there you'll see I had painted that bunny metal sign pink, and it was too much pink. I wanted to incorporate a little bit of greenery and flowers, and so the bunny, I had already painted it and I had already did the stitching and everything, so I'm going to keep that for another project. And so then here now I've changed. I'm going to put some greenery and some hop flowers from the Dollar Tree, and then those berries are from Walmart. I am going to decorate another wooden truck from the Dollar General. This is my Farmhouse Easter truck. Now, I know a lot of you enjoy my painting, and I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, all of your sweet and kind comments on my painting. And I promise I will do more painting on my channel here in the future. But I wanted to share an idea of those of you that feel that you cannot do any painting or don't even want to try it. You can do paper
piecing. And so what that means is that you can cut out different shapes of paper, and then you can Mod Podge it onto any, surface that it'll stick to, and then you can have some cute designs. There's so many cute different papers that are out there, available to us now. And so but because this truck was all in one piece, it was kind of hard, and it's been a while since I have done this, so bear with me. Sometimes I do things the hard way, and I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, Tracy, why didn't you do this? Or, some sweet viewer will leave me a comment and go, why didn't you do this? And I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't even think about that. So what I did is I trimmed out the pink and white gingham paper. And then now I have some more of the blue and white stripe that I want to use as my fenders. And that black circle is a 2-inch circle that I used my hole punch to cut out the wheels of some glittery paper for my truck. And so I'm just trying to figure out now how to figure out where the fender is. So I was using my finger to, kind of score it a little bit. And what I have found that works best is if I use my a nail file or an emery board to kind of help, because it kind of roughed up the paper a little bit more so that I could cut it a little bit easier. Here I am just taking a Q-tip and just putting it in the gray ink and just going around the edges just to give some distressing and dimension and depth to my paper piecings here. And then these are the sizes of hole punches that I used for my wheels: the 2-inch, a 1 1/4 inch punch, as well as a 3/4 inch punch. And then I will just Mod Podge everything onto my truck and just layer like the bottom layer, and then I'll just start layering everything on top. Creating this truck took me a little bit longer, but I did want to share a different way that you can create it if you don't want to paint. Now, when I thought about making these bunnies, I was looking for some ears, looking around in my craft room, trying to see what I could use for ears. And I'm going to share a tip of something for another season that I came up with to make some little bunny ears. Now, these beautiful poinsettia flowers are from a vendor. I know I'm going to get questions about that. Where did you get those from? I had them in my stash from Christmas for the local gift shop that I work part-time for. And I thought that they would be perfect for these cute little farmhouse bunnies. Now, did you notice that that bunny had a black nose on it? And so I wanted to make a farmhouse bunny, so I was playing around with the black nose. Well, then I was like, those look too much like mice. So I ended up going ahead and painting over those black noses and then adding some glitter to the nose for some extra sparkle and pizzazz. So I wanted to explain that part because in some of the video, you will see some of the bunnies with black noses, but that's the reason why. Okay, I started with these scrap wood. They're 2x4s. I will leave the size of the bunnies here on the screen so that you will know. I gave each of them 2 coats of white chalk paint. Then now I am going around the sides, doing some shading with my gray paint. And starting out, I just dip half of my brush in paint, half of my brush in water, blend it on a paper towel, then I go around it and I give the shading like that. Now, since these were rustic farmhouse bunnies, I did a layer of gray, then I go back over it and give a layer of the brown because I like the combination of both of those for my rustic farmhouse little things here. And so anyway, for the cheeks, I like my cheeks to be more rectangle up and down. So I'm just using a stencil brush and stippling on some cheeks. And then I'll go back over and just give some white shading and also shade around the cheeks and make the eyes and just make everything so cute and fun. Okay, I am calling these my Picket Scrap Bunnies, and the reason is because this was an old fence, these boards were, that my brother and sister-in-law gave to me many years ago, and I just never did anything with them until now because that is what I do. I'm such a craft hoarder. Anyway, so these boards were the long pickets. They were like, for a fence. Anyway, so I just had my husband cut them down so that I could maneuver and handle them a little bit better. And so what I did is I gave each of them 2 coats of white chalk paint. Now, when I say 2 coats, I didn't go very heavy. I wanted it to be enough coverage, but I didn't want it to be totally solid. I hope that that makes sense. For my painted bunnies here, I have been using small wooden hearts, and it's just because I have an abundance of those left over from my woodworking days and my craft show days. So I have a lot of these on hand. You can get them anywhere unfinished. Wood pieces are sold like Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Joann's. Any of those places have unfinished wood in different shapes and sizes. A furniture plug would work, a button, if you really want a heart and you don't have it, you can cut it out of foam board or scrapbook paper, cardboard, an old cereal box, fun foam, construction paper, or you can get, someone to cut some wood shapes out for you. That would work as well. Don't stress about it. That is one of the things that questions that I got is what can they use for a nose? Anything. I've even seen people use old bottle caps. Search Pinterest because you will get a ton of ideas. Anyway, so I'm just continuing here by just shading my bunnies, just adding some dimension and depth and making them really cute. Okay, for this cute project is a bunny hop decor piece that I created using one of these wood pieces from the Dollar Tree, and I'm also going to be using the Mod Podge heat transfer method. And first I put a coat of Mod Podge on the wood bunny. I paid special attention to the edges just to make sure that they were all nice and covered so that I wouldn't have any of my paper come up. So I want to capture a specific part of the paper, so I just take my pen, something that I can see, and then just carefully draw around the bunny, and then I will cut it out with scissors, and then that is what I'm going to Mod Podge on to my wooden bunny. If you are not familiar with the Mod Podge heat transfer method, what it is I put a layer of Mod Podge on my wood bunny and it completely dried. I had my heat gun or my heat tool to help it along so that it's completely dry. And then I'm using my mini heat press that I bought from Cricket, and I'm just using that as an iron, but a regular iron or other mini iron may work. And just using some parchment paper, and I make sure that my paper is on the bunny secured, and then I heat it up and pay special attention to the edges. And since I've been doing this, I do not have any paper peel up. For the banner of in front of my basket, what I started with is this piece of burlap. Now this burlap is just a strip that I've had left over from a previous project, and it already has Mod Podge on it. I like to put Mod Podge on my burlap to make it a bit stiffer. And so then I just took just some cardstock and just made me a template for a small banner, little pennant, and then I'm gonna trace this out. I found that a fine Sharpie marker shows up best for me, so I trace this out and then just cut it out so that it'll be ready. I'm going to paint just a part of the banner just to give it some pink color, and it's going to look really cute on the front of my basket. Now for the letters, what I'm using is these I just got these letters from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just using this purple color. It's the color lavender, and I just gave that one coat of lavender color paint, and then I'm going to go back and add just some white highlight to the letters because that's what I like to do, just to make them pop. For the banner, I'm using this pink color. It is an Americana brand. Poodle Skirt Pink is the name of this pink. So I just took my 1/4 inch flat paintbrush and just went around kind of in the center just to give it some pink color. I am not going all the way to the end, as you can see. I'm just going around just to kind of fill in the middle of that banner. And then I will just glue the letters onto the front of the banner. These small baskets came from Hobby Lobby during the fall season, and I love them because it looks like little bushel baskets to me. And what I did, I didn't do anything to the basket. I left it the color that it is. And so then I'm just going to glue these pennants to make the banner to spell HOP on the front of the basket. To finish off the edges of the banner, I just made a 2-loop bow just with some jute that I got from the Dollar Tree, and then I just glue that to the ends of each of the banner just to look like it's all tied together. To decorate my basket, I'm just using a block of this styrofoam that I like to get from the Dollar Tree when I can find it. I just glue that in, and then to cover it up, I'm just using this fine Excelsior. I love this fine Excelsior. It's kind of like Spanish moss, and I have the best luck finding it at Joann's craft store. And what I do is just cover up that styrofoam and just push it into the basket, just trying to, you know, bring it down so that I don't see any of the green of that styrofoam. And then this is what I'm going to stick my florals in. Now, this greenery with the small purple flowers came from Hobby Lobby, of course, and it just says floral on it. There's no, you know, specific name or anything. So I just cut off sticks of this. Or sprigs of this rather. And this particular greenery comes with the little white flowers, these purple flowers, yellow, and I think pink. And I cannot wait to get some of those other colors as well. And so then I just continue just to put these little sprigs of this greenery with the purple flower in until I like the look of it. And then I'm going to attach the basket to my bunny, but I want to make sure that my bunny stands up and that, you know, everything is, you know, proportioned so that he doesn't lean one way or the other. So I just hot glue that basket to the front of the bunny. Actually, I used a combination of E6000 and a bit of the hot glue just to make sure I got a permanent hold. And then those white baby's breath, I got those from Walmart, and then I cut off a few sprigs of those and stuck that in there, and it was perfect for this little bunny. For the bow at the top of her ear, what I did is I just cut off some strips of just burlap, and I have this purple small dot polka dot ribbon that I got from Hobby Lobby. I love that so much. It's perfect for the spring and Easter season. And I also have some just different ribbons and lace. This one is glittery, and then I have some lace that I got also from Hobby Lobby. Probably most of these came from Hobby Lobby or either Walmart. I think that white and pink pom-pom ribbon I got from Walmart. And so I just crisscross those until I like the look. And then I get the best hold with a pipe cleaner. So I just put a pipe cleaner around it, and I'm not too worried about it, you know, that you're going to see the pipe cleaner, because I'm going to, you know, glue a cute flower to the center of this messy bow. These flowers came from nowhere else but Hobby Lobby in the Easter section. And so I just went through and just picked out one that I liked and just glued it there in the center of that bow. And I think it is the perfect addition to this bunny HOP Decor piece that I created. This project I'm calling my bunny platter decor because I am starting with one of these rectangle gold platters. Well, it doesn't matter. This one is from the Dollar Tree. I gave it 2 coats of the plaster color chalk paint. I just feel that it, you know, sticks a little bit better to these plastic trays. Then to give it a border, what I'm going to use is some Poodle Pink paint by Americana. This is just Americana paint, and I'm also using my fan brush, and I'm just going to go around the edges just to give it a border. Now I, you know, put some paint on it, and I don't want it to be too clumpy. I want it to be more, you know, of lines, so I just kind of spread that off a little bit. And then I just continue to go around the gold platter with the paint. I just used an end of a large paintbrush just to dip it into that pink paint and put some dots in between the lines just to give it a more decorative touch. Now I'm going to do some splatter paint, and I'm just using that same poodle skirt pink and just giving it some splatter. Then I'm going to go back and use an acrylic paint granite gray. Now that granite gray is a apple barrel that you can get almost anywhere, but I like the combination of the 2 colors with for my paint splatters. The paper for the inside of that tray is from this paper pack from Hobby Lobby, and what I did, I just you know, kind of formed it around so I could kind of get an average of where I needed to cut it, and then I just used my trimmer just to cut it down. I did have to go and, you know, cut it down a couple of times because I wanted to make sure that it fit correctly. I took my fine Sharpie marker and just went around the edges just to give it some doodling of what I like to do. Just kind of gives a border, and I really feel that the black marker makes it pop. Then once that was all dry, I gave it a coat of just my gloss varnish that I like to use. And then once that was dry, what I'm going to do is to attach the paper, I'm just going to use the Mod Podge heat transfer method. That is my favorite method to do right now. So I'm just using some regular Mod Podge. Make sure that that is completely dry. I use my heat gun, my heat tool, or a hair dryer would work as well, just to make sure that that is all dry. And I'm using my little Cricut mini press, and it's just a little iron, and then that brown paper is parchment paper. I just go over it. It kind of acts like a barrier just to just protect everything. And so then now we're just ready to go into our next part of the project. I'm going to paint my little bunny. Now this wood bunny is from the Dollar Tree, and I gave it 2 coats of just white acrylic paint, and then I'm going to make a cute little face on it. Okay, I'm using a 1/2 inch flat paintbrush and some clean water and that granite gray paint. I dip half of my brush in paint, the other half in clean water, and then I blend on a paper towel. Then I'm just going around the edges just to give it, some color and definition. And then once that is all done, then I'm going to use that poodle skirt pink paint and a stencil brush, and it just gives some color to the ears as well as the cheeks. I like the more rectangle up and down cheeks, so that's why I'm stippling it on like this. And then once I finish with that, I let that completely dry, and then I'm going to go back and just with a very loved, very thin liner brush. I've had this brush for many years. It's missing some bristles. The handle is broken. It's just my favorite brush to make little lines like this on my projects. And so I'm just putting in some lines and just giving it some character. And then to create the eyes for my bunny, I like to start out by using a marker first, and I like the more almond shaped eyes, and you could use the end of a paintbrush. You could use whatever style of eyes that you like. And so I usually start with a marker, and then I go back in and fill it in with paint. And so these eyes were just a little small, so then I go ahead and get a brush and make them a little bit bigger. Then I'm going to use my favorite brush, my little thin missing bristles, little liner brush, and make some characters to the face by adding some eyelashes, some eyebrows. And then I'm also going to use a stylus that I got from the Dollar Tree to make some freckles. But before I do that, I'm going to take my flat paintbrush and that granite gray paint and just shade around the cheeks and the inside of the ears, just to kind of bring it out, bring those colors out a little bit more. Then I will use my ultra fine Sharpie marker and just go around the outside of the bunny just to doodle him up and give him some cuteness of what I like. I also go around the cheeks and the inside of the ears. I gave my bunny some paint splatter with black, and then once that was completely dry, I just gave it a coat of my favorite gloss varnish. Now, before I put my nose on, I wanted to put a hole in the bunny. I'm using my paper piercer for that. And also that wire is from the Dollar Tree. I cut off 6 small, pieces of the wire. And then I'm using my curling iron tools that a sweet friend and follower, Miss Jan Blackwell, sent to me. They have 4 different sizes. It has a little slit in this tool. You just slip your wire in there and then it goes around. I do have a link for where you can get these now. I will have the link for it in the description box. All right, so then to put the wires in my bunny, I had to make my hole a tad bigger, and so I did that with my my little poker tool, my little paper piercer, that's what it's called. Anyway, so I stuck all 6 of those in there, and then I'm using one of these glittery hearts stickers from the Dollar Tree from the Valentine's season, and that is what is going to be my bunny's nose. And then once I have my nose placed, then I take my ultrafine Sharpie marker and just draw him a cute little mouth. And I like to get my nose on first before I draw a mouth because just for placement purposes and all of that stuff. Now, I had used the Scrabble tiles to spell out Happy Easter, and I just am sharing it. This is how I sort my Scrabble tiles. I just put them in little jewelry, plastic bags, and that keeps them, all the different letters. I have 26 of them, one for each letter of the alphabet, and it just helps me find my letters better. Okay, so I spelled out Happy Easter, and what I'm doing now is I'm giving them a coat of gloss varnish that I always use, and that is because I am going to put some happy dots on these Scrabble letters. And so by giving it like a sealer, then my black Sharpie marker doesn't bleed. I had tried it out on one of them, and it kind of bled a little bit as far, kind of like the marker ran a little bit. So, but if I put just a thin coat of the gloss varnish on there, then it doesn't bleed, and I am very happy. Then I took my ultrafine Sharpie marker and just went around the edges and gave it some doodling. Now, guys, this is just my preference. This is what I like to do, and I am so glad and honored that the Lord has sent me so many sweet friends that love this style of crafting as well. Now, to enhance the dots on my happy dots, I just use just a white paint pen and just go in each of the dots and just kind of make some pop. I just feel that it makes the letters pop. Then I'll just arrange them on the my little platter here, and I kind of had to get a little creative with the Easter part because the letters I had to make sure that they all fit on there, and I'm just adhering them with some hot glue. And then for the bunny, I wanted to give him some dimension, so I'm just using 3 Jenga blocks or tumbling tower blocks and just gluing that on the back of my bunny just to give him some dimension. I like to get these garlands from Hobby Lobby and then take them apart and use the little picks that are individual. I can use them in my decorations. All right, so I'm going to be using some of this fine Excelsior. Y'all have seen me use this many, many times before, and I like to use it kind of like as a barrier, kind of styrofoam kind of thing. And so I'm hot gluing it on, but once I figured out when I'm going to stick my picks in there, I thought, well, I should have put my picks down first because I had to kind of pull that Excelsior back and make sure that all of it was you know, snug in there. And it kind of acts like styrofoam to me, and it's a bit whimsy, it's a bit country, and I just love it so much. So I just stick 2 of these Easter egg picks in, one on each side, and then I'll just continue to add some Excelsior where I feel that there were holes, and then I'm going to go back and add a couple of more eggs. I just kind of pull those picks apart and just stick them where I think that they look nice. I'm going to make a messy bow for the top, so I just have some of this sheer glittery ribbon. That pink mini polka dot ribbon is from Hobby Lobby. Probably most of these are from Hobby Lobby, and I just cut off, you know, 2 pieces and just crisscross them to make an X. I have done this many times before, but if you are new here, welcome. I am so glad that you are here. And so then once I get all of my ribbons or trims laid the way that I want, I gather it in the middle, and then I twist it with a pipe cleaner, and that is what gives me the strongest hold. I have had, you know, some friends say that they use zip ties. I have seen crafters also use jute, but whatever works for you. And I just use my needle nose pliers to give me a good twist. All right, so then I will just, you know, add some hot glue there, and then just put that sweet bow right there at the top. Now, these flowers are felt flowers from Hobby Lobby in the Easter section, and they have some really pretty colors. So I just pulled out the blue one or turquoise one, and you know, just hot glued it there in the middle, and this project is complete. It's just so cute. I just love the way that it turns out. And I hope that you do too. I do put a lot of, you know, steps and a lot of thought into my projects, and thank you for being here. All right, so what I'm showing you here, I am just going to stand this up as a shelf sitter, but if you wanted to you know, have it be a hanger, what you could do is use a pipe cleaner and make sure it's glued on the back. I would probably cover it up with felt or canvas, or, you know, something else that might, you know, give it a little bit more sturdiness, and just to make it more secure. Okay, here is my version of the bunny butt decor. This cute cutout is from the Dollar Tree, and I gave it a couple of coats of this white acrylic paint. Now, initially, I was just going to paint this up really cute and, you know, put it on a sign or a wreath or something like that. But I'm going to share my little mess up so that you don't do it as well. I know you're smarter than me and you will not do it. I forgot to fill up my hole, so I pulled out my wood filler from Walmart, and I spread it around like frosting. I don't know what I was thinking, and I had to leave my project, and so it dried. And so when I went back to it, I'm like, girl, what were you thinking? Because it wouldn't, like, you know, sand off or anything. So plan B. All right, so I took off the feet for the bunny, you know, took off the bunny feet, and then I'm going to take off the bunny tail, and I got those off by with my heat tool and some elbow grease. I mean, these little things are stuck on there tight. Dollar Tree must be using a different glue or something like that, but I did. I stayed with it and got them off, and so we're good to go. All right, so then what I'm going to use then for the fluffiness of my bunny is I'm using these like duster things that you can get in the home section, like cleaning section over at the Dollar Tree, and these packs come in. It has 3 pieces, but one of them is the handle, and then in the package are 2 of the little dusters. And also what I'm showing you there, you can use those little like chamois things from the car section, but I had these on hand and decided to use those. And so I just kind of pulled them apart and just used my scissors just to, you know, kind of cut the like strings that were like in between the little fluffy thing. And then I just used my hot glue to attach them all. The first one I did, I kind of pulled apart just to see how I'm wanting to put this on. But once I got into it a little bit more, I found out that, you know, I could leave them whole and not have to pull them apart and, you know, just kind of feel around as I go along my bunny. The feet, to give it some shading around the edges, I'm doing my favorite way to shade. I'm using a flat paintbrush and some gray acrylic paint. I dip half of my brush in paint, the other half in clean water. I blend on a paper towel, and then I just go around the edges just to give it some definition. For like the bottoms of the feet for my bunny, I'm just using some half split balls is what I'm using, and these are I have 2 smaller ones and 1 bigger one, and then I just use a piece of painter's tape just to, you know, stick them together. I found this from another fellow crafter and appreciate that. And so I just gave that 2 coats of poodle skirt pink. And then I just gave I used my ultrafine Sharpie marker and just gave the bunny feet some doodling and stuff I love to do. And then also I gave that just a little bit of black paint splattering because I love to do that. And then just to, you know, make sure everything was nice and sealed, I just used my favorite gloss varnish. Now, to give the bunny fluffiness a little bit of definition, I just used that same gray paint and just went around the edges just to give it some, you know, just color around the edges. And I love that it just kind of enhances it just a bit. I decided to add some like paws on the bottom of my feet, and I'm using 2 circles. These are the 2.5-inch circles. They're from the HOP Decor that I got on sale recently from Hobby Lobby. Okay, so I painted them up with 2 coats of the poodle skirt pink, as well as shaded them with the granite gray that I like using. And why I have those 1/2-inch wood balls there is because I had used a different pink previously, and so I wanted them to match. So I went ahead and repainted them so that they would all match. And then I did some doodling around the edges of the paw, and then I'm going to add a Jenga block or tumbling tower block to the bottom of the paw so that I can get some dimension. And so this is what happens when, you know, you do different things on different days. You know, I forget which color I used and that kind of thing. And so doing this video, guys, is a lot of work. I say that humbly. I say that because all glory and honor to the Lord for giving me this platform and this community so that I can share these beautiful crafts with. For the bunny tail, I'm going to use this fabric as well as just some trims and ribbons. I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm going to make I don't know, a messy bow. I just had this fabric that I ripped up a little bit thinner and also cut some of the strips of ribbon. And so now I'm just layering them. No really rhyme or reason. I just kind of want to mix them up so that I don't have, so they're just kind of mixed up. And I'm adding in some lace as well as some shimmery ribbon. And then once I gather that the way that I want, I just kind of scrunch it together in the middle, and then I'm going to take a piece of that fabric and then just tie it off in the center. And then what I'm going to need to do is give this little bunny tail a haircut because these are way too long. And so then I like to use my pinking shears to do that because it gives just a little bit decorative edge on the edge of the fabric or the ribbon. And so then once I get that done, then I will just hot glue that into the top of the bunny butt. I decided I wanted to add a bit of a decorative touch to the paws, and so I'm just using some of that pink and white gingham fabric and just cutting out some circles. The first set that I cut was a bit small for my liking, so I went back and cut a couple of larger ones, and I like that a lot better. And so this little bunny butt is complete. I love the way that it turned out. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it. Maybe have it just stand like this, or just put it in decor, or maybe a faux plant, because I just love this so much, and I hope that you do too. Took the wood bunny and just used my heat tool to heat up the tail and the inner part of the ears to get that off because I'm going to be adding some fabric. One of the plastic tiles. Now I got mine from Family Dollar because I could never find them at the Dollar Tree. Anyway, so I flipped my bunny over to the side that I wanted to trace so that it would be the right side. Then I just cut it out with my scissors and then glued it down with some Fabri-Tac glue. I did have to go back in some spots to add some hot glue around the edges just to make sure that it was, down. So I'm taking the lavender chalk paint and I am giving it a good coat of that just with this little sponge brush roller. And then once that dries, I go back later and add a second coat. While my bunny is drying, I'm going to Mod Podge some, put a layer of Mod Podge on my wood inner parts of my ears, and then I'm just going to add some fabric. I cut off some pieces of that beautiful fabric just so that I could get these flowers on there, and then I just cut off the excess, just with my fabric scissors. Okay, so then now I'm taking just thin strips of the fabric. I ripped it apart and then I cut about 4-inch strips, and just enough for me to kind of work with. I tie it off in the middle and then I'm going to trim it pretty good. This is going to be my fluffy tail for my cute little lavender bunny. When my bunny is dry, I'm taking some plaster color chalk paint as well as a palette knife and just going along and just kind of hitting the high parts of that raised area of the plastic tile. This really just kind of gives it like a chippy look and just really kind of just gives it the distress look that I like for my projects. Now in some spots I was kind of being a little too fast and I got a little too clumpy. So what I did is I just went back and just added more of the lavender paint and, so that it wouldn't be so splotchy in certain areas. I use my distress ink just to go around the edges to give it a shadow, and then I glued the inner part of the ears on, I glued the tail on, and now I'm going to make a little tag. I took one of the brown tags that was in my mystery box, and that is what I'm going to make as a tag. Now I'm also taking a piece of muslin fabric and I just hand lettered blessed on there. I'm going to rip that or give it the jagged edges, and then I will glue that on the tag. And then I'm going to be using some of that fabric as well as some moss green gingham fabric just to rip some strips and make a bow. I'm also using some jewelry cording. I like to add this to my bows and that kind of thing. I think it gives just a little bit of a rustic touch. Okay, the base of my door hanger is this splatter screen from the Dollar Tree. I just took it outside and gave it about 3 coats of brown flat spray paint. The wood bunny is from Dollar General. Splatter screen, I'm going to add some extra little lines on the edge of it just to, you know, kind of decorate it up a little bit more. I'm just, you know, using my number 2 liner brush and just going around and giving some lines on the handle. I painted the edges and the back side of the bunny with just some brown paint. Then I turned it over and I traced out the paper. Then now I'm just cutting it out so that I'm going to Mod Podge that onto my bunny. I'm using a cotton ball and my distress ink. This is Vintage Photo, my favorite distressing ink. And I'm just going around the edges, just brushing it to give some shading, some dimension, and some depth and some character to my bunny here. And then I'm going to take my black Sharpie marker and do extra doodling because that's what I like to do. I just make little squiggly lines to go all the way around, you know, not really stressing about it if it's perfect or if the lines are connected. This is the sign that I'm making here for my project. I rusted the spring letters as well as some safety pins. Now I drilled 2 small holes in the top of my sign, and then I'm going to attach it to my splatter screen here using some wire from the Dollar Tree. I get asked about this wire all of the time. I find it in the automotive section. I seem to just find the packages that have the red and the black in it now, but at one time they did have silver. Anyway, this burlap bag is from a local Texas dollar store called King Dollar. I found a couple of packages of those burlap bags. Also, Walmart has it, or maybe other stores that maybe you can get it from. Anyway, I just wired my burlap bag onto my splatter screen, and then I drilled some holes in my bunny here, and I just attached it to the splatter screen using some of that same wire from the Dollar Tree. And then now I'm just going to decorate my bag with the carrots. And I also have some pit berries from Hobby Lobby. It was from a garland that I just took apart, and then I'm going to stick that and decorate that really nice. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how I created these cute little carrots in just a second. But now I'm just positioning my carrots inside the bag, and I'll glue everything down and make it all nice and cute. To add a whimsical effect to my door hanger here, I'm using my decorative Excelsior. Just stick some of that in there. Also decorating around the bunny. I like the whimsy look. And then I'm going to hand letter some tags. Now, I got these tags a long time ago. I coffee stained them. I will link to a video that I used many years ago because I did a big batch of those. And I found an excellent video that I will link to in the description box below so that you can check it out if you would like to coffee stain some tags. It is a great way to, you know, attach a tag with a primitive country look that I love, and I'm finding that a lot of my viewers love as well, and I am so glad that you are here. We are joined with our primitive country hearts. Anyway, so I'm just hand lettering my tag here just with my black Sharpie markers, just going around and doodling that up. Then I will also add some distressing. I crumble the, kind of scrunch up the tag to give it a little bit more of an aged look. And just adding that distressing makes it look really cute for me. I just took one of those rusty safety pins and attached it to the bag. And I love just having these rusty safety pins on hand so that I can attach cute little tags like this. For my bunny tail, I am using one of my fabric rosettes that I created a few years ago. I do have a video of how I created these rosettes I will link to in the description box below. A really cute little bunny tail. I just distressed it with that vintage photo distressing ink, and we're going to move on to the next part of this project. Here are the ribbons I'm going to use for my bow. The buffalo check is from Hobby Lobby, as well as the burlap with the orange is from the fall season at Hobby Lobby. The orange and burlap checkered gingham is from Joann's. I got that in the fall season. I just cut them at 9 inches and then layered them on top of each other, kind of offsetting them a bit, and then using my tiny attacher, my little favorite stapler that I use to help in bow making. I just stapled those together in the middle, and then I made a raffia bow, and I'm just going to secure all of that with a chenille stem and then attach that to my splatter screen. Now that chenille stem is too thick to go through there, so I had to rethink some things, and I'm going to redo my bow, and then I'm just going to attach it to this splatter screen with some wire. So, just with crafting, you just have to think of different things that you can do. So then now I'm just going to attach it with the same wire that I used, my favorite wire from the Dollar Tree. And that works great because that wire is thin and it goes through that splatter screen quite nicely. Just remember to fluff your bow. That is extremely important. Then I made just this simple 2-loop bow. I just, attached a portion of the burlap in the middle to make it really cute. And then I just hot glued that on the neck of the bunny to give him, a bow as well. I just love the way that this rustic spring door hanger turned out. Now, if you want to know how I created the simple little carrots, stay tuned because I'm going to show you that now. These little carrots were created using a tissue paper and then some orange burlap. So what I did is I took a sheet of tissue paper, and then I had this orange burlap that I got actually at Walmart, and I cut off the edges, and then I cut it down the middle to have 2 pieces. Now I have I have some tape, and then I have this 1 sheet of tissue paper, and then I just folded it in half. Then I switched it and folded it in half again. Then I folded it over again. I'm trying to go slow. I'm not speeding this part up so that you can see, because I know I get some questions on that. Then I start at one corner, and then I roll it at a diagonal and just continue to roll it kind of on like where my left hand is. I kind of make that a little bit larger, kind of as a cone shape. And then my right hand, I'm kind of pinching it a little more so that it rolls into a cone or a carrot shape. Now, I know that the top is going to be a little, you know, a little bit more, but we're going to cut that off, no problem. What I did is I sticked a bit of stuffing in there to make it a little fatter, and then I'm just going to continue until I'm finished and I run out of tissue paper. Then I'm going to take a piece of the clear packing tape that I have on hand. You just use whatever you have, and I just secure all of that together, taping everything down. Then I'll take my burlap strips. Again, what I said I did is I cut off a strip of the burlap, and then I cut off the wire edges of the burlap and then cut it down the middle. So I had two 1-inch strips, and then I just hot glued it around the carrot. Now, if some of it, you know, like if any of the white was showing, I went back over it with another piece of the burlap until it was all covered. And then I have this foliage from the Dollar Tree that I've been using for my carrots, and that works out really nicely. Then once I get my carrot covered the way that I like, I just gave a raffia bow, and then this little pickup truck is from Dollar General, and even though it's already cute, I decided to add some doodling with my black Sharpie marker and just added some highlights with some white paint and made it really, really cute. For bases of my wreath, Grapevine is my favorite to work with. I also use wire and styrofoam in some instances. I also like to mix deco mesh and Grapevine, just like I'm doing here with this wreath. For the mesh, I'm using some 10-inch mesh that aqua blue color was a 21-inch, and I just cut it about, I don't know, 8 inches, and then I cut that one in half. And then I'm just making an X or a plus sign. I'm just rolling it up just like in a tube. I don't know if it has a name. That's just what I do. And then I just take some Chanel stems and just thread it through the Grapevine and then attach my bundles of deco mesh. Then now I'm just drilling tiny holes in 4 corners of the truck, and then I will use some wire, and I like to use the wire from the Dollar Tree. I get this in the automotive section, and that is the wire that I use mostly for my crafts now, and I'm going to attach the truck to the Grapevine wreath with that wire. I like to use a different variety of foliage from Dollar Tree, Walmart, Hobby Lobby, other craft stores, anywhere that I can get good quality, very nice foliage is what I like to do for my wreaths. Now, if you've ever bought a wreath, or if you shop on Etsy, or if you sell wreaths, you know that they can get quite expensive. So I get, one of the questions I get all the time is, how much do you sell your wreaths for? And the thing is that currently right now I work part-time for a local business. They set their prices. And so I know what I need to do in order to keep the wreaths at a certain price point for our local area. So depending on what your local area is will depend on what you can charge and what people will pay for a wreath. But Etsy is a very good source to check out to kind of monitor what the type of wreaths you're going, you know, that you've made, that what they're going for, and also kind of what area you live in will depend on how much you can charge for a wreath, what people will pay for. I also work full-time. I have a full-time job. I kind of do crafts on the side. That is the reason why I don't have my own shop. And I really appreciate so many people saying, hey, I would buy your stuff. Y'all make me feel really nice. But that is in the future plans once I can retire from my day job and become a full-time crafter. So then now I'm going to add some carrots from this garland that I got at Hobby Lobby, and I just took them off the garland and just wired them on the Grapevine.
Here are the ribbons I'm using for this wreath. They mostly either came from Walmart or Hobby Lobby or Joann's, and I used 3 of those, the orange, the buffalo check, and then the burlap with the orange. I cut those at 10 inches. And then this one right here is from Joann's, and I use my tiny attacher. I just make 2 loop bow, and then I staple it in the middle, and that kind of helps with my bow making. And so here are all the ribbons that I have. Like I said, I cut those at 10 inches, and then this is what I'm going to make them look like. I just stack them on top of each other, and then I put that bow on there, and then I added some raffia. To make a hanger for my wreath, I like to use the very stiff wire that my husband picked up for me many years ago from a home improvement store. I think it was Home Depot. And I just thread it through the back of the Grapevine and, you know, make sure that it's secure. And that is the hanger for my wreath. And then now I'm just adding some pit berries. This is a garland that I took apart, and I just added pit berries to the wreath just to add a whimsical effect. Exactly what I did for these little cute Easter eggs. Oh my gosh, they're so cute. The tin bucket and the styrofoam is from the Dollar Tree. I'm showing you this excelsior, which I actually use the pink excelsior that I got from Joann's. I'm also using some glass beads and some Dollar Tree decor, as well as one of those unfinished eggs from Dollar General. Now, these are the scrapbook papers that I decided to use. A lot of these I already had in my stash, but you can get those at Hobby Lobby or any other craft store. I am also using this for my ribbon. I love to work with the jewelry cording. You can get that in the jewelry section of any craft stores, and the ribbon is also from Hobby Lobby. So to get started on my egg, I have this large one from the Dollar Tree. Now I'm taking my 2 pieces of pink paper. The one 12 by 12 is not large enough for this paper, so that's why I'm taping 2 of those together, and then I am just going to take a black Sharpie marker, trace that egg, and then cut it out with my scissors. Then I take my Mod Podge and I Mod Podge it onto the back of this egg, and you know, just give it a thin coat, and then take my patterned paper and I just smooth that out. Continue. I like to work in sections like this, so that way my Mod Podge does not dry out too quick. I'm also going to use a squeegee, and I try to get out the excess of the Mod Podge, so that way you know, I have a smooth surface. Then I just add a thin layer of Mod Podge on top of the egg, because that gives it a shiny effect as well as seals it. Now moving on to the second egg. This is the unfinished egg from Dollar General. I'm using some chalk paint in the color Pool, P-O-O-L, and I'm just painting the sides as well as the back. So then now what I'm going to do is take my black Sharpie marker, trace that egg out, and cut it out as well. Now on the unfinished side will be the side that I'm going to adhere this paper. So I have my Mod Podge here, and I just put a thin layer and then attach this scrapbook paper as well. For the smallest egg, I am using this little decor from the Dollar Tree.
I thought I was going to make a sign, and that's why I'm just taking all of this off, but I've decided against that. But to get all of that glitter off of there, I just took my little sanding block and I just went to town sanding. I get asked about that sanding block a lot. I got that either at Walmart or Lowe's or something like that. Anyway, but what I'm showing you here is cheesecloth. This is one of my favorite tools in my craft room because I work with a lot of glitter, also work with wood, and once I'm finished sanding, I can sand, I can wipe everything off, and it just, removes all of those little dust particles. Now, for the third egg, I just am doing the same technique, just taking my black Sharpie marker, tracing it around on the wrong side of the cardstock, and then I just cut that out, and then I'm going to attach it to the egg using Mod Podge as well. Once my eggs were completely dry, I take my black Sharpie marker and I am just doodling around each one of those just to give it a bit of character. This is my personal preference because that's what I like to do for my projects. You can totally skip this if you're going to recreate this project, but I love the way that the little doodling and the shading gives your projects life, and I just like to do that for my projects. I added this thick rickrack to the bigger egg that has that, where the two pieces of paper meet. I think that if you add ribbon, rickrack, that kind of thing, it really kind of camouflages what you're trying to cover up. So I'm just attaching that with some hot glue. I got that rickrack from Hobby Lobby as well. For my tin bucket, I just painted one of the buckets with 3 coats of the chalk paint. The chalk paint I'm using is the color Platter, and I just gave it 3 coats of that chalk paint. I let it dry in between so that it would, adhere nicely to my little bucket. Then I took my little sanding tool and I just roughed it up, distressing it a bit with my little sanding tool, then taking my cloth again and just wiping it all clean. To get started on my little styrofoam, I am just taking some Aleene's tacky glue as well as some hot glue, and I used one of the larger blocks from the Dollar Tree as well as 3 of the little smaller individual squares from the Dollar Tree. Then to give my buckets weight, I'm actually gluing some of the glass beads in the bucket, and then I add my pink Excelsior on top to cover up that green styrofoam. Now for the fun part. I love this part. Anyway, so I just want to figure out how I'm going to attach these eggs together, as well as how I'm going to get it to stand up here in that little bucket. To attach the eggs, the one from the Dollar Tree is a little bit thinner than the one from Dollar General, so I cut off a piece of thick fun foam that I had in my craft room, and then I'm just going to use that kind of as a buffer or something to lift up that little thin egg, and then I just attach all of those together. So now I'm going to figure out how I'm going to get this to stand up here in this bucket. I'm using some wooden plant labels that I picked up from the 99-cent store. Now these are perfect because it has they remind me of little pickets, and it has the little V at the bottom so that it will stick really nicely into my styrofoam. So I'm just painting 2 of those pink, and then I glue them on the back of the large Easter egg. Now I'm going to make a bow for some finishing touches. Just have some of this burlap ribbon, and making 5-inch loops. I just kind of crisscross that, and then I'm going to hold it using a little stapler. It's a little Tim Holtz tiny attacher, and it is one of my favorite crafting tools that I have in my craft room. I do get questioned about that a lot. You can get it at any craft store or anywhere like scrapbooking items are sold, or I will have a link in the description below to my Amazon store if you would prefer to have it shipped to you. Anyway, I'm just going to now add some of my other layers of ribbon on top. I have some of that burlap window pane ribbon, as well as some of this pink and white gingham ribbon, and then I cut that off and I use a lighter to singe the edges so that they don't fray. Now I have my jewelry cording, and I like to make just a little thin bow, just kind of adds a little bit of texture to my bow, and then using a Chanel stem I twist all of that together, and then I'm going to use my needle nose pliers to give it a really tight hold. And then to get that to attach to my little eggs, I'm just using a U-shaped pin. You can get those in the floral section of the craft store, and I just attach the bow using several of those U pins into the styrofoam. I decided to add some of these styrofoam eggs that you can get from the Dollar Tree. I purchased this particular pack at the 99-cent store, so that's what I'm doing with them. And I'm just kind of taking different colors and using some toothpicks. I have so much stuff in my craft room, but anyway, I'm glad that I could use some of this stuff that I have all of the time. Anyway, I just, they're both styrofoam, so I just poke them into the egg and then, secure them into the styrofoam. Friends, I love using Grapevine wreath forms and putting deco mesh and ribbon on my forms. Now, this particular sign is a Happy Easter metal sign, but I just want to give you the idea because this can be incorporated for other seasons and other home decor. Okay, what I start with is an 18-inch Grapevine form, and I like to get mine at Hobby Lobby. The wire that I use is a 16 gauge tie wire that my husband gets me over at Lowe's. Okay, this is the metal sign that I'm using from Hobby Lobby. The 10-inch deco mesh that I'm using is cut at 12 inches, and I got this particular mesh at Hobby Lobby. So to attach my mesh, I just use some pipe cleaners, and I just kind of alternate like a tic-tac-toe pattern. You maybe have heard me refer to that because it's kind of like this and that, like I go inner, outer, and I use I cut this at 12 inches, and I'm using like the technique is kind of like a cruffle. It's like a curl and a ruffle mixed, kind of like a cruffle. And so my big clips, these particular clips I got at the Dollar Tree, and what I do, guys, is I just bend over one end and I clip it to hold. Then I bend over the other end like 2 times. Then I ruffle it in the middle, and then the clip holds it until I get ready to use it. Okay, depending on which mesh I want on top, I will then, kind of crisscross them or do an X, and then I will attach the pipe cleaners to the Grapevine, just thread it through the Grapevine, and then I'll attach it just to hold. Now, I'm not going to do it very tight because I'm going to open that pipe cleaner back up to include my ribbon. I used 7 bundles of these to mesh together for this 18-inch grapevine wreath. Once I have my mesh on my form, then I will put on my greenery garland. This greenery garland I got at Walmart, and what I use is this wire that I get from the Dollar Tree, and I just cut little 2 to 3 inch pieces, and then that is what I use to wire the grapevine the greenery garland onto the wreath form. That's why I like using these grapevine forms, because of the space. And so depending on which grapevine form I use, that's why I like the ones from Hobby Lobby. I've also had success from the ones from Michael's. Now other places may have them as well, but I just kind of share where I get mine that I like the most. To attach the sign, I just use whatever hole or whatever attachment that I can use. I just position it on the grapevine and just kind of attach it with wire. Now these are the ribbons that I'm using for this particular wreath. Now the let's see, that orange. This one right here is from Hobby Lobby. I measured it out 20 inches, and that is what I'm going to make a bow. The loops are about 3 inches, inches in width. And so then I just take my tiny attacher, my little staple. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know that is my favorite tool, because it just helps with my wreath making. It's just a personal preference. I can make these bows, and then I can have my ribbon cut. The ribbon is the pattern one is from Craft Outlet. The burlap is from Michael's. That's all 2.5 inch in width, and I measured them out at 12 inches. I just used my Perfect Tails board just to wrap around and cut cut them at 12 inches. Then I dovetailed them. Then now I'm making my bows because I'm going to show you how I'm going to put the ribbon on the wreath, and then I can kind of do like an assembly line, and this works for me. So I just crisscross the ribbons. I'm using 3 ribbons, and I figure out which one I want on the bottom and which ones I want on top, and then I just crisscross them, and then I make them all together like that, and then I will attach them onto the, in the pipe cleaners onto the wreath. And so as you can see, this is kind of what helps me when I have everything ready to go. Every wreath maker does their groove, does what works for me may not work for you. What works for you doesn't work for me. What you saw me do is once I got my bow in there, I cut off the pipe cleaner, where it's not sticking out too much, and I use my needle nose pliers and kind of bend it over, and then I use hot glue to kind of seal it. And I use the Gorilla glue sticks that I get at Walmart or any craft store. Amazon also has them. They're in my Amazon store if you can't find them, but that's what I do is I just cut off the excess of the pipe cleaner, and I seal it with some hot glue so that everything stays nice and tucked in, very all together. So I'm at this point where I'm going to add some flowers, and this calla lily little yellow flower bunch is so pretty. I got them at Walmart, and I just love them. I just cut them off and just stuck them in in the Grapevine, of course, I secured them with some glue, and it's just so pretty. So I used 7 bundles of the ribbons and just sporadically put them around onto this particular wreath that is for Easter, but I just wanted to share how I do my Grapevine wreaths because you can change it out for, the sign and for each ribbon, just whatever is going to match your season or your decor. Friends, I have many more of this style of crafting on my YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribed, I would love it if you would check out my channel and maybe consider subscribing. Have a great day. God bless.